Chapter 393. Qi Zhuo in Xiushui and Lu Anping left the main hall and brought people to the prison to escort the disciples of the Falling Star sect to the slave market. Gu Feiyang stood up and headed to the backyard of the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. As the only mid-level true master guarding the stronghold, Gu Feiyang's residence was naturally the most central mansion in the backyard of the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. Outside the mansion, there were Star Vortex realm martial artists guarding it. Gu Feiyang entered the mansion and walked into a quiet courtyard. This was where he cultivated. No one else was allowed to enter without his permission. Gu Feiyang stopped in the courtyard and prepared to cultivate. However, a gust of wind suddenly blew. Many leaves fell from a tree beside the courtyard and danced in the wind. The wind blew the leaves down. It looked normal, but Gu Feiyang felt a trace of killing intent. By the time Gu Feiyang sensed the killing intent, it was already too late. A leaf suddenly flashed and shot towards Gu Feiyang. This ordinary-looking leaf was like a divine weapon at this moment, piercing through the void at an astonishing speed. Gu Feiyang had no way of blocking it or dodging it. Gu Feiyang was shocked. It was just a leaf, but he felt the threat of death. The person who attacked him was definitely a terrifying expert who was much stronger than him. Since he could not use a weapon to block the attack, Gu Feiyang could only use his astral energy to form a defensive shield to protect his body. At the same time, he prepared to retreat. However, he had just bent his knees and was about to retreat when a crisp sound rang out. The leaf cut through Gu Feiyang's defensive shield as if it was cutting through the air. It instantly hit Gu Feiyang's forehead. The leaf was extremely sharp. It pierced through Gu Feiyang's skull and came out from the back of his head, leaving only a line of blood behind. A figure flashed past Gu Feiyang and caught up with the blood-stained leaf. In the blink of an eye, the blurry figure disappeared. The blood-stained leaf was shattered into pieces and scattered with the wind, leaving no trace behind. Gu Feiyang's expression froze in fear. Blood flowed out from the wound on his forehead. His body fell backward and fell to the ground. He did not move anymore. A 4-star true master was killed in an instant. He did not even have the chance to make a sound. There were no other martial artists from the Sun Moon sect in the quiet courtyard. At this moment, none of the martial artists in the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect would think that Elder Gu Feiyang, who was in the 4th stage of the Star Realm, had already died. Without Gu Feiyang's permission, no one dared to enter the courtyard. No one would know that Gu Feiyang was already dead. For a short while, Qi Zhuo in Xiushui and Lu Anping commanded the Sun Moon sect martial practitioners to bring the Falling Star sect disciples out of the prison. Lu Anping waved his hand and said, "Put them all on the beast carriages and head to the slave market. Stamp them all and sell them." Lu Anping's voice was very excited. Although the disciples of the Falling Star sect couldn't be sold for a very high price, there were a lot of them. Even if they were sold for 100 mid-grade star crystals each, they would still be worth close to 20,000 mid-grade star crystals. Soon, the Falling Star sect's disciples were loaded into the beast carriages. Other than the 5 true masters who were guarding the stronghold, Qi Zhuo in Xiushui, Lu Anping, and the 2 1-star true masters who were escorting the Falling Star sect's disciples to Nine Heaven City with Lu Anping were gathered together. Under Lu Anping's order, the 5 true masters led the Sun Moon sect's martial artists and escorted a few beast carriages out of the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect. Before he left, an 8-star martial saint hurriedly ran in from outside and shouted, Elder, he left the inner city and came here." When the martial warriors heard this, they were all startled. Following which, Qi Zhuo and the other spiritual masters all revealed cold smiles. It seemed like Yi Xing heard that the Falling Star sect's disciples were going to be sold as slaves. Therefore he came here to save them. If Yi Xing dared to barge into the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect, wouldn't it give the Sun Moon sect a reason to kill Yi Xing on the spot? The corner of Qi Zhuo's mouth curled up as he called out to the Yin Yang young master, "Yang Ming, quickly go and get Elder Gu. We will trap this little bastard here. Since he wants to die, we will fulfill his wish. We must not let him escape." Bang! The Yin Yang young master answered and was about to go and get Gu Feiyang when he was attracted by a loud explosion. He looked in the direction of the sound. In the direction of the gate, the entire wall collapsed in an instant with a loud explosion, and dust filled the air. Soon after, a young man walked in with a black spear in his hand. He pointed it at the sky. Behind the young man was a huge demonic bird with silver wings. It was the silver-winged demonic eagle. The young man in front of the silver-winged demonic eagle was Yi Xing. The martial artists of the Sun Moon sect narrowed their eyes. They didn't expect that Yi Xing would arrive so soon after the news of his arrival had reached them. His speed was so fast that it was shocking. Yi Xing came quickly. He rode the silver-winged demonic eagle and went straight to the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect. The martial artists who were monitoring him couldn't keep up with his speed. If they didn't have another way to send the news, Yi Xing would have arrived before the news reached them. Once he reached the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect, Yi Xing destroyed the signboard of the Sun Moon sect, including the door and the wall. The stronghold of the Sun Moon sect was built in the east of Nine Heavens City. It was a bustling place where martial artists came and went. Even though the Sun Moon sect had purposely chosen a quiet place as their stronghold, it wasn't far from the bustling city. The commotion caused by Yi Xing's spear attracted the martial artists nearby. Although the Sun Moon sect wasn't ranked high in the true Xin region, it was still a one-star sect. It was an existence that dominated the region and had a good reputation. Today, someone actually came to their doorstep and destroyed the signboard of the Sun Moon sect. The intruder definitely had a deep hatred for the Sun Moon sect. This matter wouldn't end well. Therefore, when the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect was attacked, the martial artists nearby all ran over to watch the show from afar. Moreover, the news spread quickly in Nine Heavens City. That's Yi Xing, the champion of this year's Young Hero competition, the #1 genius of the younger generation in the region. Someone went to the inner city to watch the Young Hero competition and recognized Yi Xing from afar. The new #1 on the Earth Profound ranking? What kind of deep hatred does he have with the Sun Moon sect? He actually destroyed their signboard and barged in. This is a situation where they won't rest until one of them is dead. The Sun Moon sect is from the Green Cloud region. Yi Xing is also from the Green Cloud region. He seems to be from the Fallen Star sect. I understand now. There is indeed a deep hatred between them. There will be a good show today. Oh, what's going on? Something big happened in the Green Cloud region a few months ago. A sect called the Fallen Star sect was destroyed. Today, the Sun Moon sect transported a batch of slaves. I heard that they are all disciples of the Fallen Star sect. Hiss! Revenge for the destruction of a sect. No wonder Yi Xing was so furious and smashed down the main gate of the Sun Moon sect's stronghold without saying a word. Yi Xing is a peerless genius that only appears once every few thousand years in this region. He's the #1 figure among the younger generation. The Sun Moon sect actually has such a deep grudge against him. The Sun Moon sect is finished? I don't think so. The stronghold of the Sun Moon sect is guarded by a 4-star sage. I heard that in this year's Young Genius competition, the most powerful person didn't have the combat power of a 4-star sage, right? That's right. Yi Xing and Mu Xiaoyue are both 3-star sages with the highest combat power. They can't be compared to a 4-star sage. After all, a 4-star sage is already a middle sage. That's right. Yi Xing killed his way into the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. No matter how talented he is, no matter how great his potential is, it's useless. Today, it will be a battle of life and death. What matters is his current strength. He is too impulsive. If I had his talent, I would definitely hide and cultivate. When I have enough confidence, I will come out and seek revenge on the Sun Moon sect. Yi Xing is indeed not a match for a 4-star sage. It is indeed impulsive of him to barge into the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. The martial artists gathered in the distance and discussed with each other. Soon, they understood the whole story. They all thought that Yi Xing's actions were too impulsive. He had just won the Young Hero competition and became the #1 genius of the younger generation in the true Xian region. His future potential was limitless. It would be a pity if he died fighting with his enemy now. After Yi Xing entered the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, His gaze swept across the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect and landed on the few beast carriages at the back. The beast carriages were not enclosed spaces. Instead, they were iron cages. The disciples of the Falling Star sect were locked in the iron cages and could be seen from the outside. Yi Xing's eyes suddenly burst into flames. Although he was not very familiar with the disciples of he had basically seen them before. Yi Xing had a photographic memory and had a deep impression of them. Regardless of whether their personal relationship was good or not, just the fact that they were fellow disciples and were caged like wild beasts made Yi Xing feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, the clothes of the disciples of the Falling Star sect were tattered, their hair was disheveled, and there were many wounds on their bodies. It was obvious that they had been tortured and abused. This made Yi Xing even more furious. Moreover, as the sect leader of the Yi Xing could not stand seeing the disciples of the Falling Star sect being treated in such a manner. Even though Yi Xing's mind was calm and he was able to restrain the wild rage in his heart, he couldn't restrain that terrifying killing intent. Yi Xing tightened his grip on the Black Dragon Spear. He pointed the Black Dragon Spear at the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect and coldly said, "All of you must die." As Yi Xing spoke, he waved his hand. His voice was cold and emotionless, his killing intent seething. "Silver Demon, kill them all. Leave no one alive." The silver-winged demon condor let out an excited cry. As a monster bird, its nature was fierce and savage. If Yi Xing ordered a slaughter, that was exactly what the silver-winged demon condor wanted. With a sharp cry, the silver-winged demon condor flapped its wings and rushed forwards, leaving behind a silver light in its wake. In that instant, two Sun Moon sect martial artists were swept up by the silver-winged demon condor's astral wings. They were instantly cut in half, dying on the spot. Chapter 394. Elder Lu, you go deal with this beast. Elder Yin and I will hold off Yi Xing Yangming. Go get Elder Gu. Qi Zhui yelled. They were all 3-star enlightened masters, but his position was above Lu Anping and Yin Qiushui. Usually they were on equal footing, but when it came to a battle, he was the leader. Beast! Lu Anping roared and took out an upper-grade spirit saber and pounced at the silver-winged demonic condor. Upper-grade spirit martial art, flame saber technique. The upper-grade spirit saber exploded with hot flames as Lu Anping slashed down. The 3-star enlightened master's strength was completely unleashed. The silver-winged demonic condor let out a sharp screech. Facing Lu Anping's flaming saber, it was fearless. The silver wings slashed horizontally as demonic aura gathered. Like 2 silver blades, it slashed across the void and collided with Lu Anping's flaming saber. Boom! With a loud explosion, the flaming saber dissipated. Lu Anping's body shook as he retreated dozens of meters, revealing a trace of shock. Lu Anping's cultivation was at the late 3rd level of the astral realm. His strength was considered above average among the 3-star enlightened masters, but he was at a disadvantage as soon as he exchanged blows with the silver-winged demonic condor. From this, it could be seen that the silver-winged demonic condor's strength was at the peak of the 3-star enlightened masters. The silver-winged demonic condor's speed was very fast. Taking advantage of Lu Anping's retreat, it rushed to the side like a silver light. In the blink of an eye, another Sun Moon sect martial artist was killed. "Beast, don't run. Let's fight first." Seeing this, Lu Anping roared and attacked the silver-winged demonic condor again. However, the silver-winged demonic condor's speed was much faster than Lu Anping's. Furthermore, it knew that Lu Anping's strength was not bad, and it would be difficult to kill him in a short period of time. The silver-winged demonic condor did not tangle with Lu Anping. Instead, it used its extreme speed to push Lu Anping back and pounced on the other Sun Moon sect martial practitioners. Wherever the silver light passed, there would definitely be Sun Moon sect martial practitioners who would fall. When the 2 1-star spiritual masters saw this, they also attacked the silver-winged demonic condor at the same time. Together with Lu Anping, they barely managed to hold the silver-winged demonic condor back, preventing it from harming the others. The silver-winged devil condor had been stopped, and Yin Qiushui had already circled behind Yi Xing together with Qi Zhui, They surrounded Yi Xing to prevent Yi Xing from escaping. Qi Zhuo coldly stared at Yi Xing and said in a sinister voice, "Yi Xing, I really didn't expect that your cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds in just 3 months, breaking through the astral realm and becoming an enlightened being. Moreover, your battle prowess is heaven-defying, reaching the peak level of a 3-star sage. This has indeed exceeded my expectations. If I had known earlier, I would not have given you any chance to escape that day. I would have personally attacked and killed you first. However, you managed to escape that day, and that was the regret in my heart. Now, that regret no longer exists. Today, you dared to barge into the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. You're seeking your own death. Today, I will not give you any chance to escape. You won't be able to escape even if you have wings. You will die without a doubt." As he spoke, Qi Zhuo raised his hand and a spirit bow appeared. It shone brilliantly, a high-grade spirit weapon. Qi Zhuo cultivated the Tao of archery. Although his skill was not all that exquisite, his cultivation was high. Few enlightened beings of the same level could match him. Yin Qiushui also took out a high-grade spirit weapon. It was a black sword that exuded a sinister aura. Surrounded by 2 3-star sages, Yi Xing immediately used his astrology. A beam of starlight shot out from between his brows and turned into a giant flaming star. Yi Xing had not come for a duel, but for a massacre. Apart from the black hole astrology and Sagittarius astrology that he could not reveal, Yi Xing did not hide his strength at all. While using his astrology, Yi Xing also activated his superbrain to scan. A pair of black wings sprouted from his back. In order to increase his speed to the maximum, Yi Xing even used his black wings. When Qi Zhuo and Yin Qiushui saw Yi Xing use his astrology, 2 beams of starlight shot out from between their brows. Qi Zhuo's astrology was the flame astrology, while Yin Qiushui's was the black water astrology. Qi Zhuo shouted and immediately shot an arrow at Yi Xing's throat. He knew Yi Xing's strength. It would be difficult for him and Yin Qiushui to kill him. They could only stall for time until Gu Feiyang, a 4-star enlightened being, arrived. Even so, they had to make the first move. The arrow left the bowstring and released a dazzling radiance that contained terrifying destructive power. It was as fast as a flash of light and arrived in front of Yi Xing in an instant. However, Yi Xing's speed was even faster than an arrow leaving the bow. He took a step forward and disappeared in a flash. Qi Zhuo had already expected Yi Xing's speed to be extremely fast. The arrow suddenly changed direction in midair and continued to shoot towards Yi Xing. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Xing knew the changes in the arrow like the back of his hand. In the blink of an eye, the arrow changed direction 3 times. Qi Zhuo's arrow changed direction 3 times and lost its momentum. It was unable to change direction again. With a whoosh, it shot into the wall far away. With Qi Zhuo's 3 changes of heart, it was rare for him to miss when he killed a beginner enlightened being. However, Yi Xing's speed was too fast. With the super brain scanning, he knew the arrow's trajectory clearly. He was the archer's nemesis. If Yi Xing focused on dodging, Qi Zhuo would not be able to touch his clothes even if he had Qi Zhuo's 4 changes of heart. Gentle water sword. Qi Zhuo was not the only opponent for Yi Xing. As soon as he dodged Qi Zhuo's arrow, before he could counterattack, Yin Qiushui shouted coldly and waved the spiritual weapon in his hand. A black sword aura exploded and attacked Yi Xing. The black water sword technique was an upper-class spiritual martial art. The gentle water sword was the ultimate move of the black water sword technique. Although the sword style was soft, it was like water ripples. The power came wave after wave and the momentum was long. If Yi Xing took this attack, he would be in a situation where he competed with Yin Qiushui's astral strength. As a 3 stars enlightened being, Yin Qiushui's only advantage in front of Yi Xing was his astral strength. Moreover, Yi Xing was competing with Yin Qiushui's astral strength. Naturally, he would not be able to move. Now that Qi Zhuo shot out another arrow, Yi Xing would become a dead target no matter how fast he was. In one breath, Yi Xing changed his direction several times. In Yin Qiushui's view, Yi Xing had used up all his astral energy. There was no way he could dodge his gentle water sword. Just as Yin Xiushui expected, Yi Xing did not dodge. Dark Spirit Spear. Yi Xing shouted and used the ultimate move of the Dark Spirit Spear technique. Like a needle against an awl, he stabbed at Yin Xiushui. Yi Xing scanned with his super brain and knew exactly where the momentum of Yin Xiushui's attack was. Of course, he would not waste time with the latter. Instead, he used his strongest attack. I don't care how long your momentum is. I'll use my full strength to push you back. No matter how strong your momentum is, you won't be able to use it. Yi Xing's Dark Spirit Spear art had already reached the transformative realm. A casual strike from him was already a move that had reached the acme of perfection. Not to mention the fact that he had intentionally used his strongest killing move. The power of the grand momentum and the power of the celestial body were all infused into his spear. Boom! The tip of the spear and the tip of the sword collided. With a loud explosion, a violent air current exploded and a terrifying shockwave erupted. Yin Xiushui cried out in alarm and spat out blood. The spiritual weapon in his hand was hit by the terrifying power. It bent into a semicircle and then straightened again. Yin Xiushui's body shot backward like a cannonball. In the blink of an eye, he was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Seeing him spit out blood, he was injured. In the distance, the spectating warriors all drew in a cold breath. Yi Xing had actually managed to injure one of the 3-star venerables in a single exchange of blows despite being besieged by 2 of them. His strength was astounding. Compared to his performance at the Young Hero Assembly, Yi Xing's current performance was even more terrifying. After all, during the Young Hero Assembly, Yi Xing and Mu Xiaoyue had only fought to determine victory and defeat. Even when facing Xianxia, it had not reached the stage of life and death. But now, it was a real vendetta in the Jianghu. It was either you die or I live. Yi Xing naturally had no scruples when he attacked. He could truly unleash his strongest attack without worrying about his opponent's life or death. If he could kill the enemy with a single strike, then everything would be fine. Under such circumstances, not only would he be able to unleash his strongest attack, he would even be able to unleash his full potential in an emergency, unleashing a terrifying battle prowess that was usually difficult to achieve. Seeing Yi Xing send Yin Xiushui flying with one spear, Qijua's eyes were filled with shock. Yi Xing was harder to deal with than he had imagined. However, his eyes were filled with a deathly still killing intent as he coldly shouted, "Withering Flame Arrow! Die for me!" Taking advantage of the momentary pause caused by the clash between Yi Xing and Yin Xiushui, Qijue launched a fatal blow at Yi Xing, unleashing his most powerful arrow. The Withering Flame Arrow was the ultimate move of the high-grade spirit-level archery art, Flame Extinguishing Arrow. When the arrow was shot, it carried the flame of death that could cause all living things to wither away. Its lethality was extremely terrifying. If an enlightened master of the same realm faced this arrow, unless he could dodge it with his speed, he would most likely die. At this moment, Yi Xing was hit by the power of Yin Xiushui's sword. His body paused for a moment, and in this moment, the arrow that carried the flame of death was already behind Yi Xing Tiger Roar and Dragon Roar. Yi Xing instantly turned around, clenched his left hand into a fist, and unleashed the ultimate move of the Flame Dipper Fist. He punched out, accompanied by a fire dragon and a fire tiger. The tiger's roar shook the heavens, and the dragon's cry was ear-piercing. The fire dragon and tiger merged into the aura of the fist, and in addition to the power of fire from the flame constellation, the grand momentum of fire from the refinement realm, and even the stellar fire seed in his body were activated by Yi Xing. A ball of stellar fire erupted and merged into the aura of the fist. Boom! Yi Xing's speed was so fast that the arrow was hit squarely by his fist. Qijue's eyes narrowed. He was well aware of the terrifying lethality of the Withering Flame Arrow. As long as he didn't dodge, Adept 3-star wouldn't be able to take it head-on. If he took this arrow head-on, he would either die or be injured. He hoped that Yi Xing would be seriously injured by this arrow. That way, he and Yin Xiushui would have a chance to kill Yi Xing without waiting for Gu Feiyang to make a move. Chapter 395. Yi Xing's flaming dipper fist was even more terrifying than the dark spirit spear art. How heaven-defying was this move, Tiger Roar and Dragon Roar? It was absolutely invincible among beginner-level perfected persons. No one could block his punch. Amidst the explosion, a violent air current surged in all directions. The arrow was blown away by Yi Xing's punch. However, amidst the sparks, there was a faint layer of translucent flame. When Yi Xing's fist collided with the arrow, Yi Xing's blazing flame glove was attached to Yi Xing's blazing flame glove. Then, this faint layer of translucent flame followed the blazing flame glove like maggots and spread to Yi Xing's arm in the blink of an eye. This layer of translucent flame revealed an aura that could cause all things to wither. It symbolized death and was extremely lethal. Although Yi Xing's arm was not stained by the death flame, Qijua's eyes were still bursting with excitement. These flames were the terrifying part of the withering flame arrow. As long as a trace of it touched Yi Xing's astral energy, it would be greatly damaged under the corrosion of the death flame. After the death flame spread to Yi Xing's arm, it disappeared and directly drilled into Yi Xing's flesh and started to destroy his vitality. However, before the death flame could do anything, the stellar fire seed in Yi Xing's Dantian's stellar vortex immediately sensed the foreign flame entering his body. The black hole stellar vortex suddenly erupted with an extremely strong devouring power and instantly pulled the death flame into the Dantian's stellar vortex. In the next moment, the death flame touched the stellar fire seed. In front of the stellar fire seed, the death flame melted like ice meeting fire. It was absorbed by the stellar fire seed and disappeared without a trace. When the death flame entered his body, Yi Xing felt a little uncomfortable. However, as the death flame was absorbed by the stellar fire seed, Yi Xing no longer felt uncomfortable. Instead, he felt that the stellar fire seed was even more exuberant and emitting a terrifying flame energy. Yi Xing's eyes suddenly burst with a terrifying light. His gaze was like a sword as he instantly locked onto Qijua and stabbed out with his spear. A flash of inspiration. This was one of the fastest moves in the dark spirit spear arts. At this moment, Yi Xing had merged with the advanced wind force and borrowed the speed of the black feather wings to increase his speed to the extreme. The speed of this spear was not inferior to the speed of an arrow. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Qijua. Qijua was shocked. As an archer, it was definitely not a good thing for an enemy to get close to him, especially when the enemy was Yi Xing. As a 3-star enlightened master, Qijua's strength was higher than Lu Onping's and Yin Qiushui's. Even if he didn't use a bow, he was still one of the best among 3-star enlightened masters. Facing Yi Xing's lightning-like spear, Qijua instantly put away his upper-grade spiritual bow. At the same time, he performed the upper-grade spiritual martial art, exploding flame finger, and pointed out. Qijua wore a pair of upper-grade spirit weapon gloves on his hands and was unafraid of clashing with upper-grade spirit weapons. Surging flame astral stellar energy gathered at Qijua's fingertips, condensing into a dazzling ball of fire energy. It was on the verge of erupting and contained a terrifying strength. Exploding flame finger. With a single point of his finger, fire energy would explode. It was a martial skill with a terrifying destructive power. In the blink of an eye, Qijua's fingertips collided with the black dragon spear. Bang! The ball of fire energy at Qijua's fingertips instantly exploded. The sound shook the heavens and the power was terrifying to the extreme. Even facing a peak 3-star enlightened master, Qijua could rely on this finger to resist them. However, Yi Xing's strength wasn't limited to that of a peak 3-star enlightened master. In a frontal battle, he had defeated Mu Xiaoyue, who was a peak 3-star enlightened master. Yi Xing's strength was infinitely close to that of a 4-star enlightened master. Yi Xing grasped the black dragon spear and thrust forwards, as still as a mountain. He wasn't forced back by the explosive strength of Qijua's exploding flame finger. On the other hand, Qijua was struck by Yi Xing's spear. Even though his fingertips were covered by a high-grade spirit artifact glove, he still felt a sharp pain and drew back like a bolt of lightning. His body was shaken by the terrifying strength and he was forced back dozens of steps. Astral flame. Without waiting for Qijua to stop, Yixing's left hand used the astral flame fist. Like a thunderbolt, it rumbled towards Qizhua. Just how powerful was Yixing's superbrain? In this fierce battle, it was easy for him to multitask. His right hand used the dark spirit spear art and his left hand used the astral flame fist. In the blink of an eye, there was no sense of stagnation. Qizhua clearly couldn't match Yixing's attack rhythm. Facing Yixing's astral flame fist, he didn't have time to use any martial arts to block or dodge. He could only rely on his astral star to defend himself. Qizhua had only hastily used astral star to defend himself. How could he possibly block Yixing's fist? Bang! Amidst the explosion, Qizhua was instantly sent flying. While he was in the air, he had already spat out blood. His internal organs were shaking and churning. He was already injured. In the blink of an eye, Yixing, Qizhua, and Yin Qiushui, the two 3-star enlightened masters, had exchanged blows. In reality, not much time had passed. However, both of them had already been injured by Yixing. Yixing wasn't affected by the flames of death. This made Qizhua extremely shocked and frightened at the same time. Yang Ming had gone to invite Gu Feiyang. With Gu Feiyang's cultivation as a 4-star enlightened master, he should have already rushed over from the backyard. Furthermore, with such a huge incident happening at the Sun Moon sect's stronghold and the sounds of battle in the front yard shaking the heavens and earth, even if no one had gone to invite him, Gu Feiyang should have already known that something had happened and rushed over. However, Gu Feiyang's figure was nowhere to be seen. This made Qizhua very frustrated. Yixing's attack power was too strong. It wouldn't take long for the battle to end. Qizhua was very clear that if this continued, he and Yin Qiushui wouldn't be able to last long against Yixing. At this moment, the Yin-Yang young master Yang Ming had already arrived at Gu Feiyang's courtyard. Now that things were urgent, Yang Ming couldn't care less. After calling for Elder Gu and receiving no response, he directly barged in. As a result, Yang Ming was stunned the moment he entered. He was like a statue, frozen in place. He saw Gu Feiyang lying flat in the courtyard. His forehead was covered in blood and he was already dead. Even in death, his eyes were still wide open, revealing a look of disbelief. Yang Ming instantly felt a chill run down his spine. Gu Feiyang was a 4-star enlightened master, but he actually died here just like that. There wasn't even a trace of a battle. Who killed him? He could imagine that the person who killed Gu Feiyang in one hit was much stronger than Gu Feiyang. In front of him, Gu Feiyang didn't even have a chance to resist or struggle. To be able to reach such a level, even a 6-star enlightened master wouldn't be able to do it. Perhaps only a Star Realm cultivator would have such terrifying strength. Looking at Gu Feiyang's corpse, Yang Ming felt a chill in his heart. Gu Feiyang was already dead. In the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, no one was a match for Yixing. Today, the person who died wasn't Yixing, but the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect. They were facing a calamity. Yang Ming's back was covered in a layer of cold sweat. This made him recover from his shock and hurriedly left the courtyard. Then, Yang Ming didn't go to the front courtyard. Instead, he ran towards the back door and escaped without a trace. The Sun Moon sect's stronghold couldn't be protected anymore. Just one Yixing was already impossible to deal with. In the dark, there was still a terrifying expert who could instantly kill Gu Feiyang. Yang Ming didn't dare to stay here for a second longer. When Qizhua and Yin Qiushui were both injured, Lu Anping and the two 1-star enlightened masters were already at a disadvantage under the attack of the silver-winged demonic eagle. At this moment, the two 2-star enlightened masters and the two 1-star enlightened masters who were guarding the stronghold heard the fierce battle in the front courtyard. They had already rushed over from their residences and joined the battle. The two 1-star enlightened masters joined the team besieging the silver-winged demonic eagle. It became Lu Anping leading 4 1-star enlightened masters to besiege the silver-winged demonic eagle and finally turn the tables. However, the silver-winged demonic eagle was extremely fast and could fly at any time. Even if Lu Anping and the 4 1-star enlightened masters worked together and were stronger than the silver-winged demonic eagle, they still couldn't hurt it. The silver-winged demonic eagle seemed to be at ease under the siege of 5 enlightened masters. Seeing that Qizhua and Xianxia were both injured, the two two-star Enlightened Masters attacked Yixing. In this way, Yixing would have to fight 4 Enlightened Masters at the same time. 2 3-star Enlightened Masters and 2 2-star Enlightened Masters. Like the silver-winged demonic eagle, Yixing's greatest strength was also his speed. Whoosh 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 whoosh, when the 2 2-star Enlightened Masters attacked, and Qizhua and Xianxia also attacked Yixing at the same time, Yixing chose to dodge temporarily. Flapping his black wings, he used the subtle wind technique and the heavenly bat steps. His entire body moved quickly like a stream of light. In an instant, Yixing changed his position. Qizhua, Xianxia and the 2 2-star Enlightened Masters' attacks all missed. Even when Yixing pushed his speed to the extreme, even Qizhua and Xianxia, the 2 3-star Enlightened Masters, could only see a string of afterimages. The 2 2-star Enlightened Masters couldn't even see the afterimages clearly. They were a bit confused. Whoosh, whoosh. All of a sudden, 2 arrows shot out explosively. As Yixing rapidly moved, he put away the black dragon spear and took out the purple firmament bow, shooting out 2 arrows. The 2 arrows turned into azure dragons that hurtled towards Qizhua and Xianxia. Yixing's 4 symbols arrow art had reached the transformation boundary. Moreover, his attainments in archery had reached the heart's 4 transformations. Even though the purple firmament bow was only a medium-grade spirit artifact, the azure dragon arrow that it shot out possessed an astonishing might. Even 3-star Enlightened didn't dare to underestimate it. Qizhua and Xianxia's expressions turned solemn. From the arrows that Yixing shot out, they could feel a terrifying strength. They didn't dare to be negligent and quickly used defensive techniques to defend themselves. Whoosh! And at this time, Yixing's body was like a stream of light as he suddenly appeared behind a 2-star Enlightened Master. The roar of a tiger and the roar of a dragon echoed out from behind this 2-star Enlightened Master. A terrifying flaming astral fist instantly rumbled outwards. Yixing had launched a sure kill strike towards this person, using one of the finishing moves of the astral flame fist. When the fire dragon and fire tiger fused into the flaming astral fist, Yixing's fist had already smashed into the 2-star Enlightened Master's back. This 2-star Enlightened Master simply didn't have time to dodge, nor did he have time to resist. His body shot forwards, his back caved in and blood gushed out of his head. He instantly died. Chapter 396. Many Star Vortex realm martial artists of the Sun Moon sect let out cries of surprise. 4 martial sages, even a 1-star sage was a superior existence, let alone a 2-star sage. A 2-star sage was killed by Yixing with 1 punch. It was easy to imagine how shocked the Star Vortex realm warriors of the Sun Moon sect were. Looking at Yixing, the martial sages of the Sun Moon sect were horrified. Even though they were enlightened beings, their hearts tightened as they began to fear Yixing. The arrow shot by Yixing was deflected by Qizhua and Xianxia. However, Qizhua and Xianxia did not look happy at all. Instead, they looked very serious. 2 more 2-star sages besieging Yixing did not seem to have any effect. In front of Yixing, 2-star sages were basically useless. Moreover, once they faced Yixing's attack, it was basically a dead end. Not much time had passed and one of them had already fallen. The other one would not be able to hold on for long. With the 2 2-star sages killed, Qizhua and Xianxia could not withstand Yixing's terrifying attack. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After Yixing killed the 2-star's venerable master with 1 punch, he didn't attack the other 2-star's venerable master. Instead, he pushed his speed to the limit and moved quickly again. Yixing's speed was too fast. His figure appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Qizhua and Xianxia could not lock onto Yixing's figure. Qizhua used the exploding flame finger and Xianxia used the Blackwater sword technique, but their attacks missed. As for the 2-star sage, he could not even detect Yixing's movement. He could only attack randomly and was far from Yixing's body. Most of the warriors who were watching from afar were Star Vortex realm martial sages. They could not see Yixing's figure clearly. Even if they were sages, very few of them could pinpoint Yixing's position. They were all secretly shocked. When one's speed reached the limit, it was also a problem that caused a headache. Whoosh! Yixing suddenly changed his direction while moving at an extremely fast speed, pouncing towards another 2-star perfected being. Be careful! Qizhua and Yin Qiushui shouted at the same time. An arrow and an energy sword shot out at the same time, blasting the back of the 2-star enlightened master. However, Yixing suddenly changed directions midway. His black wings flapped fiercely, drawing a straight black line in the air as he suddenly shot off into the distance. Qizhua and Yin Qiushui's attacks naturally missed again. That 2-star enlightened master was also not attacked by Yixing. However, Qizhua and Yin Qiushui's expressions did not relax in the slightest. Instead, they were shocked. Yixing had actually rushed into the middle of the battle between the silver-winged devil condor, Lu Anping, and the other 4 spiritual masters in the blink of an eye. Yixing's speed was so fast that before a 1-star sage could react, he was already struck by Yixing's fist. His back was also caved in, and his internal organs were shattered. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices, and he died in an instant. Not only that, Yixing's arrival shocked the other 4 spiritual masters who were fighting with the silver-winged devil condor. A 1-star enlightened master who was not far from Yixing was frightened out of his wits. He let out a terrified scream, and his attention immediately fell on Yixing, neglecting the silver-winged devil condor. A ray of silver light instantly cut through the void. The silver-winged devil condor seized this opportunity. Its silver wings were like blades, and it instantly slashed horizontally. The silver light flashed past the 1-star enlightened master's neck. Immediately, a head flew up, and a string of blood splattered out. Another 1-star enlightened master had died. In the blink of an eye, 2 1-star enlightened masters died. Lu Anping and the other 2 1-star enlightened masters looked at Yixing and the silver-winged devil condor with only fear in their eyes, and they continuously retreated. The silver-winged devil condor cut off the head of a 1-star enlightened master, and instantly came to Yixing's side. Yixing's eyes contained a terrifying killing intent. He swept a glance at Lu Anping and the other 2 1-star enlightened masters, and made a move to attack. Lu Anping and the other 2 1-star enlightened masters saw the situation, and quickly retreated. The 5 of them together could only be evenly matched with the silver-winged devil condor. Now that there was 1 more Yixing, and they had 2 less 1-star enlightened masters on their side, how could they dare to resist? However, Yixing was only threatening the actions of Lu Anping and the other 2. He did not really attack the 3 of them. As Lu Anping and the other 2 retreated, he instantly turned and rushed towards Qizhua and the other 2. Tiger roar and dragon roar. Yixing punched out, and the fire dragon and fire tiger followed. The void shook the sky, and the dragon roar was ear-piercing. He exploded with a powerful attack, and attacked Qizhua. At the same time, the silver-winged devil condor also received Yixing's order. It flapped its wings, and turned into a silver light. Its silver wings were like sharp spirit blades, and attacked Yin Qiushui. As for the 2 enlightened master, he was also attacked. As Yixing punched at Qizhua, an arrow shot out from his sleeve, and exploded towards the 2 enlightened master. As Lu Anping and the other 2 1-star enlightened masters retreated, Qizhua, Yin Qiushui, and the 2 enlightened masters all suffered a terrifying attack. However, Lu Anping and the other 2 enlightened masters were unable to help. Yixing and the silver-winged devil condor were too fast. Qizhua and Yin Qiushui could not dodge and could only block. Explosive Flame Finger. Blackwater Sword Technique. Qizhua and Yin Qiushui both used their strongest techniques. The 2 were already injured, and their strength was no longer at their peak. How could they be a match for Yixing and the silver-winged devil condor? Boom! Amidst the explosion, the terrifying impact of the explosive flame finger was dispersed by Yixing's punch. Qizhua spat out blood once again, and his injuries immediately worsened. The silver-winged devil condor's silver wings also shattered Yin Qiushui's sword aura at the same time. Furthermore, the silver-winged devil condor flapped its wings, and its body agilely changed the trajectory of its attack. It swept past the edge of the spirit weapon treasure sword, causing Yin Qiushui to block empty air. However, where the silver light passed, it grazed the edge of Yin Qiushui's arm. Immediately, blood splattered, and a wound deep enough to see bone appeared. Facing Yi Xing's sleeve arrow, the two enlightened masters chose to dodge. However, the arrow instantly changed direction, and like a maggot attached to a bone, it continued to shoot towards the two enlightened master. The two enlightened master was horrified. His speed exploded to the limit, and he hurriedly changed direction again. However, the arrow behind him changed direction again. Yi Xing's attainments in archery had already reached the 4 transformations of heart. The two enlightened master could not dodge at all, and could only face it head-on. When the two enlightened master understood, it was already too late. He slashed out with his sword, but only hit the tail of the sword, and slightly changed direction. The arrow instantly shot into the two enlightened master's shoulder, and pierced through it. The huge force brought the two enlightened master to the back. In the blink of an eye, Qizhua and the other two enlightened masters were severely injured. Although Lu Anping and the two enlightened masters were not injured, they were definitely not the match of Yi Xing and the silver-winged devil condor. Gu Feiyang's delayed appearance cast a shadow over the hearts of the enlightened masters of the Sun Moon sect. Elder Gu, please come and help. Qizhua and the other two enlightened masters were severely injured, and the situation was dangerous. However, Lu Anping did not dare to move forward, and instead shouted to the back. Chapter 397. Qizhua used his astral energy and roared. His voice was like thunder, and the sound waves were visible to the naked eye. This roar was so loud that even the martial artists dozens of miles away could hear it clearly. Gu Feiyang's residence was less than 3 miles away from the front yard, so he could definitely hear Qizhua's voice. However, there was no response from Gu Feiyang in the backyard. Yi Xing's lips curled into a cold smile. Since Wu Yu had promised him that he would help him get rid of the 4-star sage in the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, he would not fail. Yi Xing was very sure that Gu Feiyang had already died before he reached the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. Otherwise, Gu Feiyang would have appeared when the battle started. After Lu Anping spoke, all the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect looked toward the backyard. Their eyes were filled with hope. They wanted to see Gu Feiyang appear and hear his voice. Obviously, all the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect were disappointed. Today, the Sun Moon sect will pay the price. Yi Xing's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He swept his gaze across the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect, and his voice was cold. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Xing waved his sleeve and shot out an arrow that contained a bright light. This time, the target of Yi Xing's sleeve arrow changed to Yin Qiushui, who had been pushed back by the silver-winged demonic condor. The silver-winged demonic condor flapped its wings and turned into a flash of silver light. It pounced toward the 2-star sage who had been hit by the arrow. Its talons were like hooks that took away his life, grabbing at the 2-star sage's head. Yi Xing's gaze locked onto Qizhua, and he walked over unhurriedly. Qizhua, who was already heavily injured, felt extremely pressured. He was on guard against Yi Xing, and did not dare to help the other two. Yin Qiushui knew that Yi Xing's arrow could change direction, so he did not dare to dodge. He could only take it head-on. However, Yin Qiushui was heavily injured, and his strength was greatly reduced. He was only about 70% of his peak condition. Even Yi Xing's sleeve arrow was a great threat to him. Gentle water sword. In order to block this arrow, Yin Qiushui had no choice but to use the ultimate move of the Blackwater sword technique. Ding! The tip of the sword collided with the tip of the arrow, producing a crisp sound. Yin Qiushui was struck by the terrifying power of the arrow, and his injuries worsened instantly. His internal qi was shaken, and his qi and blood were in turmoil. He spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the arrow was blocked by Yin Qiushui in the end. Although the arrow still contained a powerful force as it shot forward, the sword of soft water was able to block the arrow with its continuous momentum. However, facing the attack of the silver-winged demonic condor, the outcome was not so good. The arrow contained a terrifying power of flames that pierced into the body of a 2-star perfected being and swam through his meridians, wreaking havoc and causing incomparable pain. The silver-winged demonic condor's attack speed was extremely fast. Before the 2-star venerable could force out the power of flames in his body, the silver-winged demonic condor's iron claws had already grabbed his head. The iron claws were like hooks, directly grabbing into the head of the 2-star sage. Reverend 2-star immediately let out a shrill scream. Blood instantly gushed out, and his body convulsed as if he had been electrocuted. That tragic scene caused the martial artists who were watching from afar to feel chills down their spines. Their hearts turned cold, and they could not help but tremble. The shrill scream quickly faded away. In the blink of an eye, the 2-star venerable had completely died under the iron claws of the silver-winged demonic condor. This was already the 4th astral realm venerable that had fallen. All the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect were terrified, and their legs trembled. The venerables that they had worshipped in the past, who were high and mighty in their hearts, had fallen one after another like ants today. This caused all the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect to be frightened out of their wits. Elder Gu! Elder Gu, save us! Some of the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect did not give up. They continued to shout crazily in the direction of the backyard. However, they were still met with silence. Even the Yin young master, Yang Ming, who had gone to invite Gu Fei Yang, did not return. This situation caused all the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect to be puzzled. This was especially so for the few venerables. They were shocked and did not understand why Gu Fei Yang still did not appear. Not long ago, they had met with Gu Fei Yang. They had agreed that if Yi Xing took the initiative to attack, Qi Zhuo, Lu Anping, and Yin Qiushui would delay him until Gu Fei Yang attacked and killed Yi Xing. But now, Yi Xing had already killed his way into the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. Qi Zhuo and the others had delayed him for a long time, but Gu Fei Yang seemed to have disappeared. He did not even respond to Lu Anping's call. If Gu Fei Yang did not appear, no one in the Sun Moon sect's stronghold could compete with Yi Xing. All the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect present would face a disaster. Many of the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect had even thought of running away. Qi Zhuo looked at Yi Xing, who was walking towards him step by step. His heart trembled more and more violently. He forced himself to calm down and said, "Yi Xing, don't go too far. Elder Gu Fei Yang, who is guarding our stronghold, is a 4-star venerable. If Elder Gu attacks, he can easily take your life. If you stop now and leave immediately, you might be able to keep your life. If you still dare to attack, Elder Gu will definitely appear and kill you." Although his words sounded tough, they revealed the fear in Qi Zhuo's heart. If there was really an expert in the Sun Moon sect's stronghold who could kill Yi Xing, how could he not appear and allow Yi Xing to slaughter the Sun Moon sect's star venerable realm martial artists? Even the martial artists who were watching the battle from afar were guessing that the 4-star venerable Gu Fei Yang of the Sun Moon sect was not here. That was why Gu Fei Yang did not appear when the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect were in such a dangerous situation. No martial artist would have thought that Gu Fei Yang had already died. At this moment, a group of marquee martial sages ran out from the backyard. The martial artists of the Sun Moon sect were shocked. These were the guards guarding Gu Fei Yang's residence. Although Gu Fei Yang still did not appear, the arrival of these guards should bring news of Gu Fei Yang. Among this group of guards, the one who was running at the front was a half-step martial sage. He shouted from afar, "Elders, this is bad, this is bad. Elder Gu has been killed in his residence." This person's face was filled with fear, and his voice was trembling. It was obvious that he was terrified. No matter whether it was the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect or the martial artists who were watching the battle from afar, they were all shocked when they heard this. Gu Fei Yang had been killed? Gu Fei Yang was a 4-star venerable realm martial artist. Among the star venerable realm martial artists, he was considered an expert. Many low-grade 1-star sects had to look up to him. How could he be killed so suddenly? Compared to the other martial artists, the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect were much more shocked. After hearing this, all the blood drained from their faces. If Gu Fei Yang was dead, wouldn't the Sun Moon sect's stronghold be razed to the ground by Yi Xing today? Lu Anping no longer dared to attack Yixing. He only dared to place his hopes on Gu Feiyang. Now that he heard the news of Gu Feiyang's death, his heart trembled violently. Lu Anping shouted at the half-step martial sage in disbelief, "What are you talking about? What nonsense are you talking about? Elder Gu. Elder Gu is so powerful, how could he be killed by someone? We were with Elder Gu just now." The half-step martial sage's face was filled with fear. Reporting to Elder Lu, Elder Gu has really been killed. Just now, we heard Elder Lu's voice calling for Elder Gu. Seeing that Elder Gu did not respond, we barged into the courtyard where Elder Gu was cultivating. In the end, we saw Elder Gu lying on the ground with blood on his forehead. Elder Gu, he was already dead. Boom! The martial artists of the Sun Moon sect were in disbelief. When they heard the half-step martial sage's confirmation, they felt as if their hearts were hammered. Gu Feiyang was dead. Gu Feiyang was really dead? Then, the Sun Moon sect's stronghold was finished today. All the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect looked at Yixing with fear in their eyes. Before this, they still had hope in Gu Feiyang. Although they were afraid, they still had the courage to face Yixing. Now, this courage had completely dissipated with the news of Gu Feiyang's death. Lu Anping's eyes flashed with struggle. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to the backyard and shouted, "How could Elder Gu be dead? How could Elder Gu have died? That's impossible. I'll go take a look. You guys hold Yixing back." How could Yixing not know what Lu Anping was thinking? Going to see Gu Feiyang? He just wanted to escape. The disciples of the Falling Star sect were taken as slaves and transported from the Qingyun district to Nine Heaven City. Lu Anping was the leader of the escorts. How could Yixing let him go? Yixing waved his hand. The silver-winged demonic eagle immediately flew into the sky. With a flash of silver light, it rushed towards Lu Anping. In terms of speed, Lu Anping was no match for the silver-winged demonic eagle. It was impossible for him to escape. Meanwhile, Yixing's eyes were still as sharp as swords. They locked onto Qizhua and Yin Qiushui. Yixing said coldly, "Qizhua, that day when you led your men to kill our sect master and elders, did you ever think that a day like this would come where your Sun Moon sect would also face a calamity?" Qizhua's breathing became rapid. He couldn't speak. At that time, Qizhua didn't think that the disciple of the Yixing would be so heaven-defying and monstrous. In just 3 months, he had broken through to the enlightened master level. His battle prowess had reached the level where he could sweep through enlightened masters of 3 stars. They had originally thought that Yixing would be killed by Gu Feiyang if he acted rashly because of the Falling Star sect disciples. Who would have thought that Gu Feiyang would actually fall at this time, silently killed in his own residence? Despair appeared on Qizhua's face. Did the heavens want to destroy the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect? Did the heavens want to destroy the martial practitioners of the Sun Moon sect? Qizhua's expression suddenly changed. He thought of a possibility in his heart. Not long ago, Gu Feiyang said that he wanted to kill Yixing. However, when Yixing killed his way into the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect, Gu Feiyang was killed at this time. Wasn't the timing too coincidental? Could it be that Gu Feiyang's death was related to Yixing? At the juncture of life and death, people's reactions were much more sensitive and accurate than usual. Gu Feiyang's eyes were filled with deep fear when this thought appeared. He thought to himself, if someone really killed Elder Gu for Yixing, the Sun Moon sect is in danger. The more I update, the more I earn. I have no reason to not earn money. Therefore I want to write more. I can't wait to update 10 times a day. This way I can earn more money. Solve my financial problems. However, sometimes I can't write as many words as I want. My condition hasn't improved these 2 days. Sigh, I'm also very depressed. I said so much just to relieve the pressure in my heart. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I owe 1 chapter for yesterday and today, so I owe 14 chapters. I'll still say the same thing. What I owe, I'll pay it all back one day. I'm sure of this. I'll definitely get my condition back. I'm grateful to the brothers who are still supporting me these days. Especially the brothers who voted, subscribed, and tipped. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Your support is my greatest motivation. Thank you. Chapter 398. Soon, the silver-winged demonic condor caught up with Lu Onping. Lu Onping was no match for the silver-winged demonic condor in a one-on-one fight. Lu Onping shouted, "Yan Zhe, Fang Yong, come and help." Yan Zhe and Fang Yong were the two one-star enlightened masters who were still alive. Together with Lu Onping, they escorted the falling star sect's disciples to Nine Heaven City. When the news of Gu Feiyang's death spread, the Sun Moon sect's cultivators lost their courage to resist Yixing. They all wanted to escape. Lu Onping wanted to escape, but so did Yan Zhe and Fang Yong. Seeing the silver-winged demonic condor intercepting Lu Onping and fighting with him, and Yixing wanting to prevent Qizhua and Yin Qiushui from escaping, the two one-star sages glanced at each other and made the same decision. Astral energy condensed into a pair of wings, and the two one-star enlightened masters soared into the sky, gliding in the sky and escaping into the distance. Yan Zhe and Fang Yong ignored Lu Onping's cry for help, and only cared about escaping. Lu Onping was furious, and he shouted, "Bastards, how dare you abandon your fellow sect members and escape alone?" He spoke in such a domineering manner that he had completely forgotten what he had done just now. "Elder Lu, if we can escape today, we'll count it. Do you want all of our sect's cultivators to die?" Yan Zhe and Fang Yong's voices came from afar, and they were not affected by Lu Onping. Astral Vortex Realm Martial Saints could condense astral energy into wings and glide in the air for a short time. Each glide could cover hundreds of meters. Astral Realm Enlightened Masters had astral energy that was 100 times stronger than astral energy. They could also condense wings to fly, but the distance they could glide was much farther. Each glide could cover dozens of miles. Some powerful exalted masters with thick astral energy could even glide hundreds of miles without any problem. Yan Zhe and Fang Yong glided through the air, covering several hundred meters in the blink of an eye and several miles in the blink of an eye. Qizhua and Yin Qiushui were on high alert as they stared at Yixing. As long as Yixing chased after Yan Zhe and Fang Yong, they would immediately escape. Today, when Yixing killed his way into the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, he had no intention of letting any of the adepts of the Sun Moon sect escape. Yixing naturally would not let the two one-star Dao masters escape. However, Yixing would not give Qizhua and Yin Qiushui the chance to escape. Yixing waved his right hand. In an instant, his body turned into a bow with astral energy as the bowstring. Two arrows shot out from his body, emitting resplendent light as they shot towards Qizhua and Yin Qiushui. Yixing's arrows moved according to his will. They couldn't be avoided, they could only be blocked. Qizhua and Yin Qiushui were both heavily injured. Yixing's sleeves could cause great trouble to the two of them. At the very least, when the arrows attacked, the two of them had no chance of escaping. They could only resist with all their might. At the same time, Yixing took out the purple cloud bow in his left hand. Immediately, Yixing drew the bow and knocked an arrow on the bowstring. He aimed at Yan Zhe in the sky and shot out in an instant. The arrow turned into an azure dragon. After the arrow was shot, Yixing drew the bowstring again in the blink of an eye. Another arrow was knocked on the bowstring and aimed at Fang Yong in the other direction. The arrow turned into a white tiger. Azure dragon arrow style. White tiger arrow style. Yixing's attainments in archery were superb, and his archery skills had reached perfection. Even 3-star Dao masters would not be able to deal with his arrows easily. As for Yan Zhe and Fang Yong, they were both 1-star Dao masters. Under Yixing's arrows, they could not withstand a single blow. The two arrows were extremely fast. After leaving the bowstring, they shot out a few li and caught up with the two in the blink of an eye. Puff, puff. The arrows accurately shot through the backs of the two 1-star Dao masters and came out from the front of their chests, piercing through their chests and hearts. Yan Zhe and Fang Yong screamed in succession as they fell from the sky a few li away. With their hearts pierced, unless they had supreme healing elixirs like the Resurrection Elixir, they would definitely die. The Resurrection Elixir was extremely rare. Even the 9 exalted sects could not take out a few of them. Even the Sun Moon Sect's sect leader did not have it, let alone Yan Zhe and Fang Yong. Therefore, the two one-star Dao masters would die in less than 10 breaths of time after being shot. Those who flee will be killed without mercy. As the two one-star Dao masters screamed and fell from the sky, Yixing shouted loudly. Seeing Yan Zhe and Fang Yong fall, and hearing Yixing's loud cry, all the Sun Moon Sect martial practitioners' faces were drained of blood. Their faces were ashen, and despair filled their eyes. Many Sun Moon Sect martial artists directly fell to the ground. "Bastard, I'll kill you!" Lu Anping's furious voice sounded, and his aura suddenly became violent. In a one-on-one fight, Lu Anping was quickly injured by the silver-winged demonic condor. He was extremely angry. Under the pressure of death, Lu Anping completely exploded. In any case, all that awaited him was death. Lu Anping might as well burn his astral stars and fight the silver-winged demonic condor to the death. As the silver-winged demonic condor saw this, he no longer fought Lu Anping head-on. Instead, he used his advantage in speed to fight Lu Anping. Prepare to die. At this time, Yixing also launched an offensive against Qizhua and Yin Xiushui. Bang! Yixing's left hand used the astral flame fist. A tiger roar and dragon roar came crashing down on Qizhua. In that moment, a tiger roared and a dragon roared. A flame astral fist carrying a fire dragon and fire tiger shot out. In the blink of an eye, the fire dragon and fire tiger fused into the flame astral fist, causing the might of the flame astral fist to rapidly rise. At nearly the same time as the tiger roar and dragon roar were used, the black dragon spear appeared in Yixing's right hand and he thrust it towards Yin Xiushui. Dark Spirit Spear. Yixing used the Dark Spirit Spear's ultimate skill. Although the Tiger Roar and Dragon Roar and the Dark Spirit Spear were the ultimate skills of their respective martial arts, Yixing's true killer move was the Dark Spirit Spear. To attack Qizhua's Tiger Roar and Dragon Roar, Yixing only used a flame astral fist. He didn't follow up. As for the Dark Spirit Spear that attacked Yin Xiushui, it wasn't just a dark astral spear. Yixing grasped the Black Dragon Spear and followed the Dark Astral Spear, instantly arriving in front of Yin Xiushui and launching a sure-kill strike. Exploding Flame Finger. Facing Yixing's Flame Astral Fist, Qizhua drew back and thrust out a finger at the same time. Bang! With a heaven-shaking explosion, the exploding flame finger and flame astral fist simultaneously exploded. Qizhua suffered a backlash and spat out a mouthful of blood. His injuries became even heavier, but he borrowed the impact of the flame astral fist to shoot backwards like an arrow. Yin Xiushui's injuries were even heavier than Qizhua's. Moreover, not only did he have to face the attack of the Dark Spirit Spear, but he also had to face the even more terrifying attack of Yixing himself. Beneath Yixing's Dark Spirit Spear, Yin Xiushui's face turned ashen. He could feel the danger of death looming over him. At this time, Yin Xiushui found it difficult to display 50 to 60% of his peak strength. How could he be a match for Yixing's strongest strike? He would undoubtedly die. Thus, Yin Xiushui and Lu Anping were the same. They burned their astral stars and fought to the death. As the astral stars burned, Yin Xiushui's aura multiplied. Compared to his peak state, his terrifying aura was even stronger. Darkwater's death. Yin Xiushui shouted out loud. With the help of the burning astral stars and the sublimation of his life force, he used one of the Darkwater Sword Art's ultimate skills. With Yin Xiushui's attainments in the Darkwater Sword Art, he shouldn't have been able to use this ultimate skill. Now that he was forced to use it in a special state, he could unleash a terrifying attack that far surpassed his peak state. After using this move, Yin Xiushui would use up all of his strength. No matter what his opponent was, he would be on the verge of death and would soon pass away from this world. A black astral sword shot towards Yixing like a long dragon. Its power was peerless and terrifying. Yin Xiushui was a 3-star venerable, and his life force had been sublimated to the extreme. Yixing couldn't help but be moved. He didn't dare to underestimate this attack. However, Yixing's spear was a sure-kill attack. He wouldn't back down until he killed Yin Xiushui. Azure Cloud Eyes. Two cloudy vortexes appeared in Yi Xing's eyes. There was a layer of hazy intent that caused Yin Qiushui to be dazed for a moment. In a battle between experts, the blink of an eye was enough to decide life and death. In that instant, Yi Xing changed the trajectory of his attack. He moved 30 feet to the side, but his spear continued to thrust towards Yin Qiushui's chest. As for Yin Qiushui's dark water death, he continued to attack forwards. The black dragon-like astral sword crashed into empty space, unable to block Yi Xing's attack. After Yi Xing broke through to the astral realm, although the might of the azure cloud eyes had increased, he hadn't deeply cultivated them and the scope of the increase was limited. As a 3-star venerable, Yin Qiushui was able to regain his senses in the blink of an eye. Puff! At this time, the astral spear collided with Yin Qiushui's protective astral energy. Yi Xing grasped the black dragon spear and ruthlessly thrust forwards. The spear point instantly tore apart Yin Qiushui's protective astral energy before thrusting into his chest. A terrifying dark spear's strength instantly exploded within Yin Qiushui's body. It wasn't just the black dragon spear that caused a hole in his chest, but Yin Qiushui's entire body. In particular, Yin Qiushui's chest received the greatest impact of the dark spear strength. His organs were nearly pulverized. Yin Qiushui's eyes were filled with disbelief. He lifted an arm with great difficulty and pointed towards Yi Xing. Azure? Azure cloud. Yin Qiushui spat out these 2 words with great difficulty. His arm that was halfway raised towards Yi Xing fell down and his voice came to a stop. He had already died. At this time, Yi Xing's eyes had returned to normal. In the fierce battle just now, besides Yin Qiushui who was a foot away, no one had noticed that Yi Xing's eyes had changed in the blink of an eye. And as a martial artist of the Azure Cloud region, Yin Qiushui was well aware of what the swirling clouds in Yi Xing's eyes represented. This meant that Yi Xing had obtained the inheritance of the Azure Cloud sect's eye technique, the Azure Cloud Eye. The Azure Cloud Eye was a top-grade spirit martial art. Moreover, it was one of the rarest types of martial arts, an eye technique. In the Azure Cloud region, there was no sect that didn't want to obtain the Azure Cloud sect's Azure Cloud Eye inheritance. But for over 1,000 years, no one had ever obtained it. Now, a martial artist that had obtained the Azure Cloud Eye inheritance had finally appeared, but Yin Qiushui had learned of this too late. Even though he had discovered this secret manual, he could only take it with him and end his life. Even in death, Yin Qiushui's eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 399. The black dragon spear shook and was instantly pulled out from Yin Qiushui's body. At the same time, the medium-grade flying spirit artifact black feather wings appeared on Yi Xing's back. Whoosh! The black feather wings flapped and Yi Xing shot into the skies. His black wings rapidly cut through the skies, leaving behind a black afterimage. Yi Xing didn't retreat as he faced Yin Qiushui's astral star strike. This was because he wanted to kill Yin Qiushui as quickly as possible and then chase after Qizhua. Qizhua had personally participated in the assassination of the Falling Star Sect's sage. He was someone that Yi Xing had to kill. Yi Xing would never allow Qizhua to escape. Qizhua borrowed the strength of the flaming astral fist to draw back. His speed was fast enough, but Yi Xing was even faster. Now that his astral star was thick, he could display the speed of the black feather wings to the limit. In just 2 or 3 breaths of time, Yi Xing had already blocked Qizhua's path. Qizhua stopped. Blood dripped from the corners of his mouth and his face was pale. Deep in his eyes, there was fear. The Sun Moon sect wasn't ranked in the entire True Mystic region, but in the Clear Sky region, it was a top influence. As an elder of the Sun Moon sect, Qizhua was absolutely superior to others in the Clear Sky region. Moreover, a sage had a lifespan of 200 years. Qizhua was only 70 years old and could live for another 100 years. How could he be willing to die? Qizhua's eyes were filled with fear, but even more so with the desire to live. He said, "Yi Xing, we can have a good talk." Yi Xing coldly looked at Qizhua. He said, "What else can we talk about between us?" Qizhua took a deep breath. He said, "As long as you spare my life, I can pay any price." Yi Xing remained unmoved. His aura gradually rose. He said, "Everything else can be discussed. But your life, I will take it without a doubt. There is no room for discussion." Qi Zhuo was agitated. His breathing quickened as he roared, "Yi Xing, the Sun Moon sect is a 1-star mid-tier sect. There are no less than 10 experts in the sect who can kill you. If you go too far, the Sun Moon sect will be at odds with you, and you won't be able to survive." The murderous intent in Yi Xing's eyes instantly rose as he said in a cold voice, "Too ruthless? You destroyed my falling star sect and sold my disciples as slaves, and now you're telling me not to go too far? Don't worry, I won't go too far. I'll only destroy the Sun Moon sect and sell the disciples of the Sun Moon sect as slaves. I won't do that." Hearing Yi Xing say that he wouldn't go too far, Qi Zhuo's pupils dilated. He thought that there was hope for him to be saved. However, Yi Xing's following words made Qi Zhuo fall into despair instantly. Qi Zhuo's face paled as he became more agitated. He shouted hysterically, "Destroy the Sun Moon sect? That's bullshit. Bullshit. If you dare to make an enemy out of the Sun Moon sect, you will definitely die. You will definitely die." Yi Xing snorted. He didn't waste any more words with Qi Zhuo and directly attacked. Tiger roar and dragon roar. Yi Xing punched out. A tiger's roar shook the sky, and a dragon's roar was ear-piercing. A fire dragon and a fire tiger followed. The power of fire, the power of the fire astrology, the fire of the stars, and various other powers merged into this punch, causing the power of this move to increase by several times. When the fire dragon and fire tiger merged into the flaming fist was already about to hit Qi Zhuo's face. "Ah!" Qi Zhuo screamed crazily, "Let's die together." As soon as he finished speaking, Qi Zhuo pointed out a finger, and his entire body swelled up like a rubber ball. Qi Zhuo actually used the exploding flame finger to make his own star energy explode in his body, causing it to self-destruct. He wanted to die together with Yi Xing. Boom. Qi Zhuo's self-destruction was extremely fast. In an instant, there was an earth-shaking explosion. His entire body exploded, erupting with a peerless and terrifying power. This attack was even more terrifying than Yin Qiushui's burning of her star energy. Yin Qiushui's burning of her star energy only consumed a lot of her life essence. If she killed Yi Xing, even if she was on the verge of death, she could still live for a little longer. Qi Zhuo's self-destruction, on the other hand, caused great destruction with his own death, and dragged Yi Xing to die together with him. The attack caused by the self-destruction spread in all directions. Yi Xing couldn't dodge it. Boom! The flaming fist collided with the destructive power caused by the explosion. A large area in front of the flaming fist was blasted open by the flaming fist. However, the power of Qi Zhuo's self-destruction was indeed terrifying. The flaming fist collapsed layer by layer at the same time. Yi Xing felt a terrifying force pouncing towards him, and he immediately retreated backwards. At the same time, he waved his arm and shot out an arrow. At this time, Yi Xing didn't have time to use other martial arts. The arrow in the sleeve was the fastest way to react. The arrow didn't shoot far away. Instead, it stopped in front of Yi Xing. It bloomed and turned into a huge tortoise shadow, defending in front of him. 4 symbols arrow technique, black tortoise arrow style. This was a defensive arrow style. Yi Xing had never used it in battle after learning it. Today, it finally came in handy. The destructive power of the explosion had destroyed the flaming fist. Its power had been weakened by a lot. After being blocked by the black tortoise arrow style, it was no longer a threat to Yi Xing. It only pushed Yi Xing back a dozen steps. Other than a storage ring, Qi Zhuo's entire body was blown to pieces in the explosion. Not a single hair was left. Yi Xing grabbed Qi Zhuo's storage ring from a distance and put it away temporarily. He flapped his black-feathered wings and flew toward the last venerable 3 stars, Lu Onping, like a stream of light. At the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, only Lu Onping was left of the 10 venerables. Lu Onping burned his astral energy, but he couldn't do anything to the silver-winged demonic condor. Now, Lu Onping's astral energy was almost exhausted. His aura was getting weaker and weaker. When he was no longer at his peak, the silver-winged demonic condor launched a counterattack. When Yi Xing arrived, he ended the battle in an instant and captured Lu Anping alive. Lu Anping, who had burned his astral energy, lost a lot of his vitality. He was on the verge of death. Even if no one paid attention to him, his cultivation couldn't recover. He wouldn't live for long. Yi Xing sealed Lu Anping's acupoints and threw him to the ground. He glanced at the Sun Moon sect martial artists. Dong 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 dong. The Sun Moon sect martial artists knelt on the ground one by one and begged Yi Xing for mercy. Among them, there were a few elite disciples who came to Nine Heaven City to participate in the Young Hero Assembly. Other than the Yin Yang Young Master, Yang Ming, who had escaped earlier, the rest were here. These elite disciples of the Sun Moon sect had entered the Qingyun ancient land before. Yi Xing recognized them, especially the great Sun Young Master, Yang Gan, and the 8-star martial saint, Yang Kuan. Yi Xing had fought with them before. However, at this moment, they were all kneeling in front of Yi Xing. Of the 9 venerables, 8 were dead and 1 was injured by Yi Xing. The Sun Moon sect martial artists were scared out of their wits and had no choice but to kneel. There were almost 100-star Vortex Realm martial artists in the Sun Moon sect. Some of them were martial artists who had been guarding the stronghold of the Sun Moon sect. Some of them were martial artists who came with Lu Anping to escort the Fallen Star sect disciples, and some of them were elite disciples who came to participate in the Young Hero Assembly. These people were all martial sages of the noble grade. Some of them were even half a step into the venerables. Yi Xing glanced at the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect. Then, he looked at the few beast carriages not far away and said, "Go and ask the Fallen Star sect disciples to come down from the carriages." At this moment, Yi Xing controlled the life and death of the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect. They had seen Yi Xing's methods. Even a venerate 1-star was killed by an arrow in an instant. They did not dare to run away. If they wanted to live, they could only beg Yi Xing for mercy. At Yi Xing's command, the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect hurriedly responded. They ran to the beast carriages and opened the beast cages. The Fallen Star sect disciples were tortured. Their clothes were tattered and they looked miserable. However, their eyes were full of energy and they were filled with excitement. Originally, they were in despair. However, they did not expect that they would be saved by Yi Xing when they arrived at Nine Heaven City. "Senior Brother Yi." "Thank you, Senior Brother Yi, for saving our lives. I will never forget Senior Brother Ye's kindness." "Trash of the Sun Moon sect, I didn't expect you to have such a day." The Fallen Star sect disciples got off the carriages and ran toward Yi Xing. They were all extremely emotional and excited. Some thanked Yi Xing profusely, while others cursed at the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect. There were even some who were so emotional that they cried out loud. "Senior Brother Yi, the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect tortured us along the way. They tortured us until we were neither human nor ghost. You can't spare them. Let them all die. That's right. Kill all the trash of the Sun Moon sect. Don't leave a single one alive." After experiencing the joy of escaping, many of the Fallen Star sect disciples looked at the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect. They were furious. The martial artists of the Sun Moon sect trembled in their hearts. Their eyes were filled with fear. Although there were many of them, they were like ants in front of Yi Xing. If Yi Xing wanted to kill them, he could kill them all with a casual strike. Moreover, Yi Xing had the silver-winged demon eagle with him. Who could escape? "Young Hero Yi, please spare our lives. Although we are martial artists of the Sun Moon sect, we did not participate in the battle to destroy the Fallen Star sect. Please have mercy." The martial artists of the Sun Moon sect could only beg Yi Xing for mercy. Only then would they have a chance to live. Yi Xing raised his hand and pressed down. The martial artists of the Fallen Star sect and the Sun Moon sect all quieted down. Yi Xing pointed at Lu Anping and said, "This person is the leader of the group that escorted you to Nine Heaven City. If you have any grudges, settle them with him first." A large group of Fallen Star sect disciples were already filled with resentment. Hearing this, they immediately charged forward. They did not have any weapons in their hands, but their legs were weapons. They surrounded Lu Anping and kicked him fiercely. Instantly, Lu Anping's scream rang out. Lu Anping's scream was shrill at first, but it gradually weakened and finally quieted down. A 3-star enlightened master was actually stomped to death by a group of Star Vortex realm martial artists. Lu Anping probably died with a grievance. After Lu Anping died, Yixing looked at the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect and said, "I don't like to kill people. I don't want to kill. You have no grudges with the Fallen Star sect, so I can let you go. However, I will not forgive those who have a grudge with the Fallen Star sect." As he spoke, Yixing's gaze turned to the Fallen Star sect disciples and continued, "Point out all those who bullied you along the way. Now pay them back tenfold. Their lives and deaths are up to you. Do the math. This month you owe 14 chapters. In April, you owe 5 monthly votes. That's 19 chapters. This month's monthly votes are doubled. That's 280 votes for 4 chapters. After that, 40 votes for 1 chapter. That's 360 votes for 2 chapters. That's a total of 6 chapters. In other words, you owe a total of 25 chapters. This is the total amount you owe, and you've already paid back the 5th chapter. The amount you owe is huge, so you're under a lot of pressure. After this month's 360 votes, you won't be adding chapters. You'll have to pay back these 25 chapters first. Otherwise, the more you owe, the more pressure you'll be under. Thank you for your support along the way. Chapter 400. When Yixing said this, many of the Sun Moon sect martial practitioners immediately revealed terrified expressions. Obviously, these Sun Moon sect martial practitioners had bullied the Falling Star sect disciples along the way. At this moment, when it was time for the Falling Star sect disciples to take revenge, these Sun Moon sect martial practitioners were naturally terrified, their faces ashen. Indeed, these terrified Sun Moon sect martial practitioners were all identified by the Falling Star sect disciples one by one. There were only about 30 martial practitioners in the group, but there were 26 of them who were identified by the Falling Star sect disciples. This meant that there were only 4 people who did not bully the Falling Star sect disciples along the way. These 26 people had obviously done many outrageous things along the way. After a discussion, the Falling Star sect disciples decided that 16 of them would be killed, and the other 10 would be crippled. The faces of the 26 martial practitioners were all ashen. Some knelt on the ground and begged for mercy, kowtowing repeatedly. Some had a mental breakdown and were dumbfounded. There were also some who were unwilling to accept this outcome and turned to flee. Yixing waved his hand, and the silver-winged demonic condor immediately flew out. Its speed was 10 times faster than the celestial vortex realm martial sages. Wherever it passed, its silver wings were like sharp blades. With a flash of silver light, the escaping martial artists were cut into 2 and killed instantly. Very quickly, the 16 martial practitioners who should be killed were all executed. The martial practitioners who should be crippled were all crippled. The other Sun Moon sect martial practitioners were all terrified when they saw their fellow disciples either dead or crippled. Their eyes were filled with terror. Even though they were furious, they did not dare to show it at this moment. Yixing did not allow them to leave. Their lives were still in Yixing's hands. No one was not afraid of death. Yixing walked out from the Falling Star sect disciples and came before the Sun Moon sect martial practitioners. His gaze swept across them one by one. The Sun Moon sect martial practitioners all lowered their heads, not daring to meet Yixing's gaze. Their expressions were nervous, and their breathing was rapid. In the end, Yixing's gaze landed on the Sun Moon sect disciple Yang Kuan. Although Yang Kuan did not look at Yixing, Yixing's gaze was sharp. Naturally, he could sense it instantly, and his body could not help but tremble. In the Azure Cloud ancient land, Yang Kuan was very arrogant in front of Yixing. Even after being taught a lesson by Yixing, he did not repent. He used the fact that he was a disciple of the Sun Moon sect to threaten Yixing and said some things that angered Yixing. Back at the Qingyun ancient land, Yixing had wanted to kill Yang Kuan. However, Yang Kuan was a disciple of the Sun Moon sect, and Yi Xing had some misgivings about him. Even though he wanted to kill him, he had no choice but to restrain himself. Now that he had become mortal enemies with the Sun Moon sect, he no longer had any misgivings about the Sun Moon sect. Today, he had also encountered Yang Kuan. Yi Xing wouldn't suppress the killing intent in his heart because of the Sun Moon sect. Feeling Yi Xing's gaze locked onto him, Yang Kuan's heart thumped. He mustered up his courage to look at Yi Xing and said with a trembling voice, What do you want to do? Yi Xing looked at Yang Kuan coldly and said, Weren't you very arrogant in the Azure Cloud ancient land? Didn't you say that you had 2 genius senior brothers who could easily kill me? Didn't you say that if I became enemies with the Sun Moon sect, I would die without a burial place? Let me tell you now. I, Yi Xing, and the Sun Moon sect are mortal enemies. One day, I will wipe the Sun Moon sect off the face of the earth. Today, I will swear on your blood. After saying that, Yi Xing stretched out his hand and the astral energy condensed into a giant hand, grabbing towards Yang Kuan. The astral energy giant hand was indestructible and unstoppable. Yang Kuan's resistance was futile. In the blink of an eye, the astral energy giant hand grabbed onto his throat. Yi Xing raised his hand and the astral energy giant hand also rose. In an instant, Yang Kuan was lifted 10 meters high. Yang Kuan's legs kicked wildly, and his hands clutched his neck. He couldn't breathe. Moreover, because of the pressure of the astral energy giant hand, blood flowed out of his 7 orifices very quickly. His legs straightened and he died. Yi Xing waved his hand, and Yang Kuan's corpse was flung away. It crashed heavily into the wall of the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. With a loud explosion, it sank deeply into the wall. At this moment, Yi Xing's gaze swept across the Sun Moon sect's martial artists again. The Sun Moon sect's martial artists all felt a chill down their spines, and their hearts trembled violently. However, Yi Xing didn't kill them anymore. He said, All of you leave. Let me give you a piece of advice. I will slaughter the Sun Moon sect sooner or later. If you want to live, don't go back. Otherwise, you may not have the chance to live next time. The Sun Moon sect's martial artists hurriedly ran out of the Sun Moon sect's stronghold as if they had been granted amnesty. They didn't dare to stay for even a moment. Very quickly, there were only some corpses in the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. There were no more Sun Moon sect martial artists left. The Sun Moon sect's stronghold is completely finished. The martial artists in the distance sighed. The Sun Moon sect was a mid-grade 1-star sect. Their stronghold in Nine Heaven City was actually destroyed by Yi Xing. It was truly shocking. The 2 perfected beings of the Blood Spirit sect brought along 2 7-star martial saint disciples. They were also mixed in with the crowd in the distance. At this moment, they were almost limp on the ground. The Blood Spirit sect also contributed to the destruction of the Falling Star sect. They sent 2 perfected beings to kill the Falling Star sect's sect leader and various perfected beings. Just like the Sun Moon sect, they had a grudge with the Falling Star sect. Compared to the Sun Moon sect's stronghold in Nine Heaven City, even if the 4-star martial saint Gu Fei Yang was excluded, the Blood Spirit sect's strength was still inferior. The Blood Spirit sect's strength was about the same as the Falling Star sects among the 6 southern sects in the Clear Sky region. They only had 1 perfected 3-star. Yi Xing had killed 3 perfected 3 stars in the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. From this, it could be seen that Yi Xing completely had the strength to destroy the Blood Spirit sect. From the way Yi Xing destroyed the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, the 2 perfected beings of the Blood Spirit sect could tell that when Yi Xing returned to the Clear Sky region, he would definitely take revenge on the sects that had participated in the destruction of the Falling Star sect. The Blood Spirit sect was facing the threat of being destroyed. The 2 perfected beings and the 2 7-star martial saint disciples were naturally terrified. In the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, Yi Xing took out some spiritual pills to treat the heavily injured Falling Star sect disciples. Furthermore, Yi Xing ordered the Sun Moon sect's stronghold to be searched. All the good things were taken away and all the buildings were destroyed. Yi Xing only took the storage rings of the perfected beings that he had killed. The rest of the items were left to the Falling Star sect disciples. It didn't take long for the Sun-Moon sect's stronghold to be completely cleaned out. All of the Falling Star sect's disciples had changed into clean clothes. When Yi Xing left with the Falling Star sect's disciples, the Sun-Moon sect's stronghold had already been reduced to a pile of rubble. After Yi Xing and the others left, many cultivators entered the Sun-Moon sect's stronghold and carried out a second round of cleansing. Yi Xing brought the Falling Star sect disciples back to the Big Dipper Inn. It was already late. Yi Xing booked many rooms and settled them down before returning to his room. Not long after, someone came to visit him. It was a cultivator from the Tian Luo sect. The Tian Luo sect also had a stronghold in the Nine Heaven City. It was guarded by the 4-star martial saint, Luo Jingchu. Luo Jingchu brought 2 perfected beings of the Tian Luo sect, Xianxia and Yang Tongji, as well as a junior disciple, Luo Lai, to visit. The Tian Luo sect also had many young geniuses who had come to participate in the Young Hero Assembly. They were led by Xianxia and Yang Tongji, the 2 perfected beings of the Tian Luo sect. There were many geniuses in the Young Hero competition. Before the competition began, there was an elimination round. Yi Xing had won first place in the elimination round. Tian Luo Lai had also advanced in the elimination round. As for the other Tian Luo sect disciples, they had all been eliminated. Luo Lai was already a 9-star martial saint during the 10 sects tournament. When he participated in the Young Hero competition, his cultivation was even more profound. He was already at the late stage of the Star Vortex realm, and his combat power was comparable to a half-step perfected being. In the Young Hero competition, he had made it to the top 64. Among the younger geniuses of the Qingyun region, Yi Xing, Yang Ming, and Luo Lai had all entered the official competition of the Young Hero competition. Their results were good, and they could all be listed in the Earth Profound ranking. It was the best result in the history of the Qingyun region. Yi Xing only recognized Tian Luo Lai, but Luo Jingchu, Xianxia, and Yang Tongji did not hide their cultivation. Yi Xing naturally knew that they were the perfected being elders of the Tian Luo sect. He welcomed the 4 of them into his room. "Brother Yi, I really did not expect you to win first place in the Young Hero competition. You have greatly increased the power of the younger generation of the Qingyun region. I, Luo Lai, am full of admiration for you." As soon as they entered the room, Luo Lai cupped his fist and said excitedly to Yi Xing. After that, he added, "After the 10 sects tournament, the martial artists in the Qingyun region compared you to the 6 great young masters. This is simply a joke. Compared to Brother Yi, us 6 great young masters, Sai, are simply not worth mentioning at all." As Tian Luo Lai was one of the 6 great young masters of the Qingyun region, he was very clear about the gap between himself and Yi Xing. In the past, the entire Qingyun region's martial artists had looked down on Yi Xing. "Brother Luo, you flatter me." Yi Xing smiled slightly with an indifferent expression. He led Luo Jingchu and the others to the guest seats and said, "May I know the purpose of your visit?" Luo Jingchu sat at the head of the table and gave Yi Xing a thumbs up. He said, "Since the fall of the Qingyun sect, the Qingyun region's martial artists have always been lagging behind in the true Xian region. Needless to say, no one has ever been on the Heavenly Profound list. Very few of the younger generation can be on the Earth Profound list. Even if they are at the bottom of the list. Brother Yi, today, with your absolute strength, you have reached first place on the Earth Profound list. You are the pride of the Qingyun region's martial artists." As a member of the Qingyun region's martial artists, we are here to congratulate Brother Yi on reaching first place on the Earth Profound list. We also want to thank Brother Yi for raising the prestige of the Qingyun region's martial artists. Congratulations, Brother Yi, on reaching first place on the Earth Profound list. Xianxia and Yang Tongji also cupped their fists and said in unison. Yi Xing cupped his fists and returned the greeting. He said, "Seniors, you are too polite. This Yi does not deserve this." Luo Jingchu laughed and said, "Brother Yi definitely deserves it. When the news spreads back to the Qingyun region, I wonder how many martial artists will be excited and proud." Yi Xing also laughed and said, "No, in this Ye's opinion, I'm afraid that many martial artists will not be able to sleep because of fear. In the Qingyun region, most of the sects participated in the destruction of the Falling Star sect and were Yi Xing's mortal enemies. If they knew that Yi Xing's strength had reached such a level, of course they would not be able to sleep because of fear. Chapter 401. Yi Xing's words stunned Luo Jingchu, Xiang Hongye, Yang Tongji, and Luo Lai. Luo Jingchu and the other three smiled knowingly. Of course, they knew about Yi Xing's situation in the Qingyun region. What Yi Xing said was true. Luo Jingchu said, Brother Yi is right. However, with Brother Ye's current achievements and future potential, even if some people can't sleep, they can't do anything about it. 3-star Venerable said to Hongye, Brother Yi is only 18 years old, but he has already broken through to the astral realm. This is unprecedented in the entire True Xian region. With such a cultivation speed, I believe that Brother Yi will be able to reach the astral realm level 4 and become a 4-star Venerable in less than 3 to 5 years. With Brother Ye's heaven-defying combat strength, if you become a middle-stage Venerable, no one will be able to compete with you except for upper-stage Venerables. When you return to the Qingyun region, even the Sun Moon sect won't be able to compete with you. At that time, Brother Yi will be able to take revenge for the Falling Star sect. No one will be able to stop him. Another 3-star Venerable, Yang Tongji, said, Brother Yi, don't worry and travel the world. Our Tian Luo sect can guarantee the safety of the Falling Star sect's disciples. We won't let them be bullied by the Sun Moon sect. Brother Yi is now an unrivaled beginner stage Venerable. If you want to train, you can go to the Sky Corpse mountain range in the north of the True Xian region. That's a good place for Venerable to train. Whether it was Yi Xing winning the Young Hero competition or Yi Xing destroying the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, it could be seen that Yi Xing's rise was unstoppable. Due to the level of cultivation techniques, it might be difficult for him to become a Venerable in the future. However, with Yi Xing's potential to become a middle-stage Venerable at the age of 18, no one would doubt him. On the other hand, Yi Xing's combat strength was heaven-defying. Once he became a middle-stage perfected one, he would most likely be an invincible existence among middle-stage perfected ones. Apart from the 9 high sects, who else in the True Xian region would dare to provoke such a person? Since the Tian Luo sect was optimistic about Yi Xing's future, it was only natural that they wanted to express their goodwill to Yi Xing. Even if the conflict between them and the Sun Moon sect intensified, they wanted to protect the disciples of the Falling Star sect so that Yi Xing wouldn't have any worries and could cultivate wholeheartedly. As long as Yi Xing continued to grow, it would definitely be beneficial for the Tian Luo sect to maintain a good relationship with Yi Xing. Yi Xing glanced at the 2 3-star spiritual masters and said, This Yi plans to set off tomorrow and return to the Qingyun region to settle the hatred of the Falling Star sect. I can't do anything to the Sun Moon sect for now, but the East supporting sect, Flying Cloud sect, Divine Wind sect, and Blood Spectre sect don't need to exist anymore. Luo Jingchu and the others thought that Yi Xing would have enough strength to deal with the Sun Moon sect before returning to the Qingyun region. However, they didn't expect that Yi Xing would actually set off tomorrow to take revenge. Hearing this, they were all surprised. Naturally, they didn't know that Yi Xing's true strength was much more terrifying than what he had shown today. If he used all his trump cards, Yi Xing wouldn't even take a 4-star spiritual master seriously. Even if he faced a 5 stars or 6 stars spiritual master, Yi Xing still had the strength to protect himself. At the very least, escaping wouldn't be a problem. Therefore, Yi Xing didn't have to endure it. Of course, he would return to the Qingyun region and take revenge. He definitely wouldn't let his enemies continue to be free. As for the Sun Moon sect, Yi Xing indeed couldn't deal with them for now. However, it wouldn't be easy for the Sun Moon sect to deal with Yi Xing either. The Sun Moon sect only had 1 6-star spiritual master, and it was said that he traveled the world all year round. As for the 5-star spiritual masters, the Sun Moon sect only had 3. All of them held high positions and wouldn't leave the sect just to deal with Yi Xing. Luo Jingchu said, Little brother Yi, are you really in such a hurry to return to the Qingyun region? Yi Xing didn't say anything. He only nodded to show his affirmation. Luo Jingchu said, the Tianluo sect will always be Little Brother Ye's staunchest ally. If Little Brother Yi returns to the Qingyun region, the Sun Moon sect will definitely not let you go. However, Little Brother Yi, you can do whatever you want in the southern region. Our sect will settle the Sun Moon sect's harassment for Little Brother Yi. After the 10 sects grand tournament, the Tianluo sect's master, Luo Zhan, already had a whole new level of respect for Yi Xing. After the Falling Star sect was destroyed, Luo Zhan didn't give up on Yi Xing. Instead, he interfered and stopped the Sun Moon sect from interfering in the southern region of the Qingyun region. Otherwise, the Falling Star sect's stronghold in the Star Crystal Mine only had the most ordinary level 3 defensive formation. It definitely wouldn't be able to stop the Sun Moon sect's middle-stage spiritual masters. Now, Yi Xing's performance was even more monstrous than during the 10 sects grand tournament. Luo Zhengchu believed that sect master Luo Zhan would definitely support his promise. Yi Xing still couldn't deal with the Sun Moon sect. With the Tianluo sect's help, this was naturally the best. Yi Xing smiled and nodded. Yi Xing said, Yi Xing is very grateful for the Tianluo sect's help. The Falling Star sect won't let the Tianluo sect help for free. If you need any compensation, please tell me. I'll definitely give it to you in the future. Luo Zhengchu smiled and said, there's no need for compensation. As long as Little Brother Yi remembers that the Tianluo sect is your staunch ally. If they didn't talk about compensation, then they were talking about favors. Obviously, the Tianluo sect valued Yi Xing's favor more than Yi Xing's compensation. Yi Xing nodded and said, I'll definitely remember it. Luo Zhengchu smiled warmly and was very happy. The Tianluo sect master valued Yi Xing naturally. He had investigated Yi Xing thoroughly and knew that Yi Xing was a person who valued friendship. Letting Yi Xing remember the Tianluo sect's favor was the greatest gain for the Tianluo sect. Luo Zhengchu said, Little Brother Yi, when you return to the Qingyun region tomorrow, will you travel with the Falling Star sect's disciples or go back first? There were close to 200 disciples in the Falling Star sect. If Yi Xing traveled with the Falling Star sect's disciples, he could only return by beast carriage. With so many people, a few demon birds couldn't carry them. It would take more than 2 months to return by beast carriage. If Yi Xing went back first and rode the silver-winged demonic eagle, it would only take about 10 days. The difference was huge. Yi Xing obviously wouldn't waste more than 2 months on the road. He said, I'll go back first. I'll ask someone to escort my sect's disciples. Yi Xing's return to the Qingyun region would definitely cause chaos. When the Falling Star sect's disciples returned to the Qingyun region, if the Sun Moon sect couldn't do anything to Yi Xing, they might attack the Falling Star sect's disciples along the way. Therefore, Yi Xing had to ask someone to escort him to ensure the safety of the Falling Star sect's disciples. Yi Xing and the Heavenly Dipper sect's master Wu Yu could be considered friends. He was prepared to ask the Heavenly Dipper sect for an escort. Yi Xing had plenty of mid-grade astral crystals. If he took out 10,000 mid-grade astral crystals as a reward, there would definitely be a 6 stars venerable willing to escort him. Luo Zhengchu didn't know that the escort Yi Xing wanted was a 6 stars sage from the Tiangang sect. He said, Elder Xiang and Elder Yang also want to bring our sect's disciples back to the Qingyun region. Why don't you travel with the Falling Star sect's disciples? Little Brother Yi, don't worry. They will ensure the safety of the Falling Star sect's disciples. Xiang Hongye and Yang Tongji nodded in agreement. Yi Xing nodded. Thank you. Anyway, Yi Xing had already remembered the kindness of the Tianluo sect. It couldn't be better if the Tianluo sect's 2 3-star sage were willing to travel with the Falling Star sect's disciples. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, the 4 Tianluo sect's disciples left. Yi Xing closed the door and walked to the table. He sat down with a deep look in his eyes. Yi Xing didn't need to worry about the Falling Star sect's disciples returning to the Qingyun region. Yi Xing only needed to wait for his senior sister Lin Tongyu to return tomorrow. Then he would set off with Lin Tongyu and return to the Qingyun region. Yi Xing's eyes sharpened. Once they arrived at the Qingyun region, it would be time for a massacre. Yi Xing could be lenient with the Flying Cloud sect, the Blood Spectre sect, and the Divine Wind sect. However, for the Dongfu sect, both old and new grudges, Yi Xing would make them bleed like a river. There would be no chance of them ever rising again. After a few breaths of time, the sharpness in Yi Xing's eyes gradually dissipated and returned to normal. His thoughts returned to the destruction of the Sun-Moon sect's stronghold. Yi Xing thought of the storage rings he had obtained. Yi Xing waved his hand and a total of 10 storage rings appeared on the table in front of him. The storage rings of the 10 sages of the Sun-Moon sect's stronghold were all in his hands. After Gu Fei Yang was killed, you didn't take his storage ring. Yin Yang young Master Yang Ming was scared out of his wits and didn't take it either. The guards who entered the courtyard later were even more terrified when they saw Gu Fei Yang's death. They didn't take it either. In the end, Yi Xing obtained it. 9 of them were low-grade storage rings. Only Gu Fei Yang's storage ring was mid-grade, the same grade as the Falling Star sect's chief's ring. The items stored in the storage rings were either star crystals, spiritual medicines, spiritual pills, spiritual weapons, or all kinds of materials. As for martial arts manuals and martial arts manuals, they were very rare. There were almost none of them at the high grade of the spirit grade. In the world of martial arts manuals and inheritances were the most important. The martial arts manuals and inheritances of sects were all stored in the sect's martial pavilion. Even if they were borrowed, it couldn't be for too long. Martial arts manuals that had reached the high grade of spiritual grade were not allowed to be taken out of the sect. Unless it was one's own martial arts manuals, there was an exception. In Qi Zhua's storage ring, Yi Xing encountered this exception. He found a high-grade spiritual grade martial arts manual. It was an archery martial arts manual, Flame Destruction Arrow. It was the archery skill that Qi Zhua had used during his battle with Yi Xing. Its power was terrifying, and the arrows he shot contained the flame of death. If Yi Xing didn't have the star fire seed in his body that restrained the flame of death, he might have been at a disadvantage in the battle. Yi Xing's attainments in archery were very high. Compared to Qi Zhua, who was at the 3rd stage of the astral realm, he was 1 level higher. However, Yi Xing's archery martial arts and spirit weapon bao were 1 level lower than Qi Zhua's. Therefore, in terms of archery power, Yi Xing was inferior to Qi Zhua. Yi Xing's arrows could only threaten Reverend 3 stars, but Qi Zhua's arrows could kill him. However, Yi Xing obtained a high-grade spiritual grade bao and a high-grade spiritual grade archery skill from Qi Zhua's storage ring. It immediately made up for Yi Xing's shortcomings. If Yi Xing learned the flame destruction arrow and shot it with a high-grade spiritual grade bao, with his attainments in archery, it would definitely be much more powerful than Qi Zhua's arrows. Yi Xing's eyes showed great interest. He immediately opened the flame destruction arrow and read it. Soon, Yi Xing finished reading it. All the contents of the flame destruction arrow were scanned into his super brain. Chapter 402. Aside from the basic arrow moves, the blazing arrow art only had 3 moves. They were the withering flame arrow, the burning arrow, and the death arrow. Each of the 3 moves was more powerful than the last. The withering flame arrow could be used at the entry level, the burning arrow could be used at the lesser mastery level, and the death arrow could be used at the greater mastery level. Qi Zhua had only reached the entry level of the blazing arrow art with his cultivation at the 3rd level of the astral star realm. Otherwise, Qi Zhua's arrow of incineration could injure or even kill a 4 stars enlightened master. Unless Yi Xing exposed all of his trump cards, he wouldn't be Qi Zhua's match. Qi Zhua had only scratched the surface of such a powerful archery technique. Yi Xing sighed in his heart, what a waste. Swordsmen loved swords and sword techniques. Similarly, archers loved bows and archery techniques. Yi Xing loved both the blazing arrow art and Qi Zhua's upper-grade spiritual bao. Yi Xing put down the secret manual of the blazing arrow art and took out the upper-grade spiritual bao from Qi Zhua's interspatial ring. The spiritual bao shone brightly. Holding it in his hand, Yi Xing could feel the great power contained within the bao. This was an excellent bao, worthy of being a high-grade spiritual weapon. There were 2 words engraved on the bao, heaven-shocking. That should be the name of the bao. Heaven-shocking bao, what a good name. How domineering! Yi Xing murmured with satisfaction as he caressed the two words heaven-shocking. Holding the heaven-shocking bow, Yi Xing felt a sense of heroism. There was nothing to be afraid of against a 4-star enlightened master. Yi Xing's 4 symbols arrow art had reached the transformation stage, and his attainments in archery had reached the 4 transformations. With the heaven-shocking bow, killing a 3-star enlightened master would be as easy as shooting a chicken. Even a 4-star enlightened master would have a change of expression when facing Yi Xing's arrow. They wouldn't dare to underestimate it and would have to use all their strength to block it. If Yi Xing used the Sagittarius constellation, the power of his archery skills would increase exponentially. Killing a 4-star's venerable would not be a problem. Therefore, Yi Xing was a 4-star enlightened master. What was there to be afraid of? This was the confidence brought about by absolute strength. Yi Xing played with the shocking sky bow for a while and put it away. Not long after, he cleared out all the items in the storage rings. Other than the heaven-shocking bow, Yi Xing had also obtained 4 high-grade spirit weapons. They were a blade, a sword, and 2 gloves. The high-grade spirit saber was Lu Anping's weapon, the high-grade spirit sword was Yin Qiushui's weapon, and the 2 high-grade gauntlets were Qi Zhuo's and Gu Feiyang's weapons. In the 6 southern sects, upper-grade spirit weapons were the most important treasures of the sections. For example, the Falling Star sect only had 1 upper-grade spirit weapon. As for the Sun Moon sect, Yi Xing had obtained 5 upper-grade spirit weapons from 10 enlightened masters. This showed the difference between a low-grade 1-star sect and a mid-grade 1-star sect. Other than the spirit weapons, Yi Xing had also obtained close to 20,000 mid-grade star crystals, over 1 million low-grade star crystals, and several low-grade and mid-grade spirit pills. There were even a few upper-grade spirit pills. Most of them were materials for refining weapons, arrays, and so on. All in all, this was a huge harvest. It would be very beneficial for Yi Xing to rebuild the Falling Star sect. After sorting out the treasures he had obtained, Yi Xing calmed himself down and began cultivating the Eyes of Azure Cloud. There was no need to say more about the use of the Eye of Azure Cloud. Yi Xing had already become a Star Realm Enlightened Master. He should be able to cultivate the Eye of Azure Cloud to a higher level. The night was silent. The next day, Yi Xing left for the East City early in the morning and went to the White Bones Auction House. Like the Big Dipper Auction House, the White Bones Auction House was one of the 3 largest auction houses in Nine Heaven City. Only enlightened masters had the right to enter the VIP room. Compared to when he had attended the Big Dipper Auction House's auction, Yi Xing had changed. He had a lot of star crystals on him. He bought a VIP room and went in early to wait. Today, Yi Xing was famous in Nine Heaven City. He was the youngest Star Realm Enlightened Master in the history of the True Shen domain. He was also the youngest Earth Profound Ranking Master in the history of the True Shen domain. The news that Yi Xing was in the White Bones Auction House spread quickly to the upper echelons of the White Bones Auction House. The martial artists of the 9 upper sects who came to the White Bones Auction House knew that the martial artist in VIP room 079 was Yi Xing, who had shaken Nine Heaven City the day before. Yi Xing had a good relationship with the Big Dipper sect, which was led by the righteous sects. Because of the Earth Fiend sect, there was a gap between him and the evil sects. Many martial artists of the evil sects did not like Yi Xing. Everyone knew why Yi Xing was here. Yesterday, Yi Xing had destroyed the Sun Moon sect's stronghold for the Falling Star sect's disciple. Today, there was a Falling Star sect disciple in the White Bones Auction House. Yi Xing was obviously here for this Falling Star sect disciple. It was said that this Falling Star sect disciple was not ordinary. She was in her 20s and was as beautiful as a fairy. Moreover, she had reached the 6th level of the Star Vortex realm. What was even rarer was that such a beautiful woman was still a virgin. A beautiful virgin female slave was extremely rare. Many martial artists were attracted by her. They came to the auction because they wanted to make this beauty their personal pet. This was not limited to the younger martial artists. Even some mid-level enlightened masters of the sects had come. There were 5 people in VIP room 7. They were all astral realm enlightened masters. 3 of them were young, and 2 of them looked over 50 years old. Sitting in the middle was a young man. His eyebrows were as sharp as knives, and his gaze was as sharp as a sword. He emitted a violent aura. 2 middle-aged men who looked over 50 years old sat on the left and right of the young man. The other 2 young men sat below the 2 middle-aged men. The 2 young men, 1 male and 1 female, were geniuses of the younger generation who had participated in the Young Hero Assembly. They were both disciples of the Fire Cloud sect. The male was Shui Yen, and the female was Yen Lin. It was obvious that the other 3 were also martial artists of the Fire Cloud sect. The young man sitting in the main seat was called Yun Tianhao. He was the godson of the Fire Cloud sect. He was not even 30 years old, but he had already reached the 5th level of the astral realm. He was a famous figure in the true Shen domain. 5 years ago, when Yun Tianhao was not even 25 years old, he was ranked first on the Earth Profound ranking with a cultivation of the 3rd level of the astral realm for 2 years. He was once ranked first on the Earth Profound ranking, so he was naturally famous. Furthermore, he was the son of the Fire Cloud sect's sect master. His status was higher than many of the Fire Cloud sect's elders. The 2 middle-aged men beside Yun Tianhao looked over 50 years old. They were both 4-star venerables and Fire Cloud sect's outer sect elders. However, beside Yun Tianhao, they were only subordinates. Yun Tianhao wore a scarlet robe and held a metal fan engraved with flaming runes in his hand. He gently fanned it, causing his hair to dance in the wind. In the Fire Cloud sect, other than the treasures that only the sect's esteemed elders could possess, Yun Tianhao could get whatever he wanted. There was basically no treasure that could interest him in the 9 Heaven Cities auction. However, today was an exception. He was here for the Falling Star sect's disciple, Lin Tongyu. Yun Tianhao was very interested in a 6-star martial saint who was as beautiful as a fairy, in her 20s, and was still a virgin. After knowing that Yi Xing had come to the White Bones auction for Lin Tongyu, Yun Tianhao's face flashed with a trace of coldness. He muttered to himself, "You want to compete with me? You overestimate yourself. How many mid-grade star crystals can a mere disciple of a remote, low-grade 1-star sect have?" Yun Tianhao didn't put Yi Xing, who was newly ranked first on the Earth Profound ranking, in his eyes. If it was the Golden Sword sect's Mu Xiaoyue, Yun Tianhao would pay more attention to him. This was because Mu Xiaoyue's background wasn't any worse than Yun Tianhao's. However, his talent was higher and would surpass Yun Tianhao sooner or later. As for Yi Xing, even if his talent was higher than Mu Xiaoyue's, his background was too poor. Furthermore, the news that Yi Xing hadn't joined the Heavenly Dipper sect had already spread. This meant that Yi Xing couldn't learn the Heavenly Dipper sect's supreme-grade spiritual tier cultivation technique inheritance. Without a cultivation technique inheritance, no matter how high one's talent was, one's achievements would be limited. A high-grade spiritual tier cultivation technique inheritance could only be cultivated to the 6th level of the astral realm. Although Yun Tianhao was only a 6-star yellow fate, with the help of the Fire Cloud sect, he had an 80% chance of becoming a high-grade astral realm expert. Yun Tianhao looked down on Yi Xing's background. Even if Yi Xing was the youngest perfected person in the history of the true Shen domain and the youngest person to rank first on the Earth Profound ranking, in Yun Tianhao's opinion, Yi Xing would only be famous for a short while. His future achievements might be amazing in a 1-star sect, but compared to the 9 high sects of the true Shen domain, it wasn't worth mentioning. The auction soon began. Yi Xing and Yun Tianhao were both here for Lin Tongyu, so they weren't interested in the items that were being auctioned. They each sat in their own VIP rooms. Yun Tianhao chatted with the 2 outer sect elders, Shui Yen and Yen Lin, while Yi Xing made use of the time to cultivate the Eye of Azure Cloud. However, when the 24th item was auctioned, Yi Xing stopped cultivating and opened his eyes. The 24th item was a 7th-grade spiritual tier corpse jade. According to the auctioneer's introduction, the corpse jade contained extremely pure astral energy that could increase the cultivation of a beginner-perfected person and martial arts comprehension. It was even effective for a mid-level perfected person. This was the first time Yi Xing had heard of a corpse jade. Since it was a treasure that could increase the cultivation of a perfected person and martial arts comprehension, it must be extremely valuable and rare. This 7th grade spiritual tier corpse jade had a starting price of 1,000 mid-grade astral crystals, which was almost as valuable as a high-grade spirit pill. After the price was announced, the auctioneer introduced the corpse jade once more. Some younger martial artists might not know much about corpse jades. This is a treasure from the Sky Corpse mountain range. Corpse jades are divided into spiritual tier and mystic tier. Mystic tier corpse jades are treasures that even sovereigns need. Spiritual tier corpse jades are divided into 4 grades and 12 grades. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grades are low grade. The 4th, 5th, and 6th grades are mid grade. The 7th, 8th, and 9th grades are high grade, and the 10th, 11th, and 12th grades are supreme grade. Among them, low-grade and mid-grade corpse jades are useful for star marquises at the star vortex realm, while high-grade and supreme-grade corpse jades are useful for perfected persons. This corpse jade is a high-grade 7th grade spiritual tier corpse jade, which is most effective for perfected persons at the 1st and 2nd level of the astral realm. It can save a lot of cultivation time. Please begin the auction. Chapter 403. Treasures that could raise one's cultivation were very useful to both older and younger cultivators. For older warriors, they had already passed the golden stage of cultivation, and it was difficult for them to increase their cultivation. However, treasures that could increase their cultivation could forcefully increase their cultivation, allowing them to reach a higher level and even break through to the next realm. For younger cultivators, these treasures were even more useful. The golden stage of cultivation was the most precious stage. During this time, the higher one's cultivation could reach, the better. Treasures that could raise one's cultivation could greatly shorten the cultivation time. Hence, when the corpse jade was auctioned, many beginner-level perfected persons bid, wanting to get their hands on it. The starting price of 1,000 mid-grade star crystals was quickly raised to 2,000 mid-grade star crystals. Many beginner-level perfected persons could not afford to bid at such a high price. Furthermore, a 7th grade spiritual grade corpse jade could not allow a 1-star or 2-star perfected person to break through to the next level. The price was too high, so it was not worth it. Hence, when the price reached 2,000 mid-grade star crystals, most people gave up. The hall instantly quieted down. After a long while, someone bid again. 2,100. The bidder was from the 36th VIP room. The seats in the VIP room were not cheap. The enlightened masters who could enter the VIP room were usually relatively wealthy and came from relatively good backgrounds. They were either enlightened masters from the 9 superior sects or enlightened masters from 1-star mid-tier sects. As for the perfected persons from 1-star low-tier sects, they basically did not have the financial ability to enter the VIP room. 2,200. 2,300, 2,400, 2,500. When the price reached 2,200, all the perfected persons in the hall gave up. However, the perfected persons in the VIP rooms started another round of competition. These people were wealthy and were willing to spend more mid-grade star crystals to raise their cultivation. However, when the price reached 2,500, even the perfected persons in the VIP rooms stopped bidding. The perfected persons who had bid 2,400 immediately gave up. Since you are willing to spend 2,500 mid-grade star crystals, this corpse jade is yours. It sounded like the bidders knew each other. The Taoist master who bid 2,500 chuckled. Do I need you to give it to me? If you want it, feel free to bid again. From their voices, Yi Xing was able to determine their identities. The one who bid 2,400 was the Spirit Snake Sect's Shidu, and the one who bid 2,500 was the Golden Sword Sect's Mu Xiaoyue. Shidu was a 2-star enlightened master, while Mu Xiaoyue was a 1-star enlightened master. A 7th stage spirit grade corpse jade was the best for enlightened masters at the 1st and 2nd stage of the astral star realm. Therefore, both of them wanted it. Shidu did not bid again, but Yi Xing began to bid, 2,600. Yixing couldn't wait to increase his cultivation as quickly as possible. Since the corpse jade could increase one's cultivation, Yixing naturally wanted to buy it and study it to see how effective it was. As for mid-grade star crystals, Yixing had plenty. He already had tens of thousands of mid-grade star crystals. After destroying the Sun-Moon sect's stronghold yesterday, Yixing had obtained close to 20,000 mid-grade star crystals from the storage rings of the 10 perfected persons. Although mid-grade star crystals were very valuable, they were useless for cultivation. If they could not be turned into useful treasures, it would be meaningless no matter how many mid-grade star crystals one had. Therefore, Yixing would rather spend a higher price to buy the corpse jade. The voice came from VIP room 079. Many cultivators knew that it was Yixing who was bidding. As for Mu Xiaoyue, he could tell that it was Yixing based on the voice. This made Mu Xiaoyue, who was in VIP room 36, frown. Mu Xiaoyue saw Yixing as a goal to surpass. He did not want Yixing to obtain the corpse jade and increase his cultivation. Mu Xiaoyue immediately said, 2,700. Yixing was determined to get the corpse jade. He said, 2,800, 2,900, 3,000, 3,100, 3,500. Yixing saw that Mu Xiaoyue was not going to give up, so he directly raised the price from 3,100 to 3,500. This made all the cultivators in the auction house speechless. 3,500 mid-grade star crystals for a 7th grade spirit grade corpse jade was not worth it. This was almost equivalent to an 8th grade spirit grade corpse jade. In VIP room 36, Mu Xiaoyue coldly snorted. Facing Yixing, he could not maintain his calm and tranquil temperament. You win. Mu Xiaoyue said unwillingly. The price had reached 3,500 mid-grade star crystals. Even if Mu Xiaoyue could afford it, he was reluctant to part with it. Mu Xiaoyue's star crystals came from the sect. Although he was very outstanding and the sect had given him a lot of resources, he still had a limited amount of middle-grade star crystals. He couldn't possibly go bankrupt for a 7th grade spiritual grade corpse jade. In the end, this 7th grade spirit grade corpse jade was sold to Yixing for 3,500 mid-grade star crystals. The corpse jade was quickly delivered to Yixing, and Yixing paid 3,500 mid-grade star crystals. The following auctions did not attract Yixing's interest. Yixing took the corpse jade and began to study it. Through the superbrain scan, Yixing discovered that the corpse jade contained an extremely pure and surging power of the stars. It could rapidly increase a cultivator's cultivation. However, Yixing also discovered that the corpse jade contained a small amount of death energy. Although there was very little death energy, if an enlightened master absorbed all the energy in the corpse jade, it would definitely cause damage to their body. If a cultivator absorbed several corpse jades in a row, then the amount of death energy would stack up and the damage would be great. A cultivator would lose a great deal of their life essence and their lifespan. Therefore, although the corpse jade was good, it was not a treasure that could be continuously absorbed unless one could refine the death energy in the corpse jade. Otherwise, it would take a long time to absorb a corpse jade and let the life energy in the body slowly adjust to the death energy. Only then could one absorb the next corpse jade. The death energy in the corpse jade was intertwined with the star energy. It was not easy to refine it directly. Firstly, one needed to have the ability to refine the death energy. Secondly, one needed strong control to ensure that the star energy in the corpse jade would not be lost when refining the death energy. It was very difficult to achieve these 2 points. Even a high-level astral realm enlightened master could not do it. Therefore, cultivators would absorb the corpse jade directly and let the life energy in the body slowly adjust it. The higher the grade of the corpse jade, the stronger the star energy and the more death energy, and the longer it would take to adjust it. However, Yixing held the corpse jade and observed it for a while. The corner of his mouth curled up. The problem of refining the death energy was difficult for the enlightened masters of the true Shen domain, but it was not difficult for Yixing. He had the starfire seed, and the starfire that burned was of high quality. It could refine the death energy. Moreover, Yixing had the superbrain scan, so he could clearly see the location of the death energy in the corpse jade. Yi Xing could fulfill both conditions. Chapter 404. The starfire seed was activated and a wisp of starfire was born. It swam around Yi Xing's body and came to his hand. This wisp of starfire was as thin as silk and was difficult to see with the naked eye. The death aura inside the corpse jade was also as thin as silk. Only the flame that was as thin as silk could refine the death aura without refining the star energy. The thin wisp of starfire passed through Yi Xing's fingertips and entered the corpse jade. Under the scanning of Yi Xing's superbrain, whether it was the thin wisp of starfire or the death chi, Yi Xing could see them clearly. Under Yi Xing's control, the starfire followed the path of the death aura in the corpse jade. Everywhere it passed, the death aura was incinerated and disappeared without a trace. After about 20 breaths, Yi Xing retrieved the wisp of starfire from the corpse jade. The corpse jade no longer had any death chi. Only pure starfire seed was left. It could be refined and absorbed directly without any side effects. This kind of corpse jade could be continuously absorbed and its value would increase greatly. Yi Xing definitely did not lose out by bidding for it with 3,500 mid-grade star crystals. Yi Xing was not in a hurry to absorb the corpse jade. Instead, he put it away. Time passed. The following auction items were also valuable and precious. For example, there were high-grade spirit weapons. However, they were not attractive to Yi Xing. It was not until the last item of the auction that Yi Xing's spirit was lifted and he sat up straighter. Next, let's begin the last auction of the day. I believe everyone already knows the item being auctioned. Many of you are also here for this item. The final winner will depend on who is more generous. Bring her up. As soon as the auctioneer finished speaking, two female warriors immediately brought a beautiful woman who was about 20 years old and dressed in red onto the auction stage. In VIP room 079, Yi Xing immediately stood up. His eyes were filled with shock. The woman in red was senior sister Lin Tongyu. After not seeing her for several months, Lin Tongyu had lost a lot of weight. At this moment, Lin Tongyu's eyes were staring straight ahead. She was completely listless. Her body was completely controlled by the two cultivators who were supporting her. Wherever they supported her, she would go. Clearly, Lin Tongyu was under mind control. Yi Xing squinted his eyes. His gaze became sharper as he clenched his fists tightly. The anger in his heart instantly boiled. If he had enough strength, Yi Xing would not have waited until today. He would have killed his way into the White Bones auction house last night and forcefully snatched Lin Tongyu away. He would not have allowed Lin Tongyu to be auctioned off today. Senior sister, I promise you that this will be the last time you'll be humiliated. Although I don't have the strength to snatch you back, I have enough mid-grade star crystals to let you escape this quagmire and never be humiliated again. Today, no one can take you away from me. Yi Xing muttered to himself and swore. After Lin Tongyu was supported onto the auction stage, the auctioneer continued, everyone can judge for themselves how the auction item looks like. I won't introduce it. Such a beautiful and fairy-like virgin slave with a cultivation of the 6th level of the Star Vortex realm is extremely rare. The starting price is 5,000 mid-grade star crystals, and each increment must be no less than 100. Friends, please release your forthright spirit and begin the auction. 5,000, 5,100, 7,300, 7,500, 9,000. The bidding voices all came from the VIP rooms. Although there were many perfected persons in the hall, they could only sigh at such a price. There were many perfected persons in the true Xian territory. Although the ratio of rich people was not high, there were still many perfected persons who were rich. The starting price of 5,000 mid-grade star crystals had already exceeded the value of an upper-grade spiritual weapon. However, there were still many people who bid. The price continued to rise. Soon, it rose from 5,000 to 9,000. Compared to the starting price, it was almost double. I'll bid 10,000. An arrogant voice came from VIP room 7. The voice was filled with disdain, as if he did not care about many people who bid. The person who bid was naturally the Fire Cloud sect's disciple, Yun Tianhao. The highest bidder had only bid 9,000 mid-grade star crystals. The moment Yun Tianhao opened his mouth, he raised the price by 1,000 mid-grade star crystals, causing the auction price to break through 5 digits. Even the perfected persons in the VIP rooms could not afford such a price increase. The hall immediately quieted down. 10,000 mid-grade star crystals was not a small sum. It was more than enough to buy 2 upper-grade spiritual weapons. If it was a low-grade 1-star sect in a border area, all the martial artists in the sect might not be able to gather 10,000 mid-grade star crystals even if they pooled all their mid-grade star crystals. Thus, it was obvious that 10,000 mid-grade star crystals was already an extremely high price. Moreover, the auction item was not a treasure, but a beautiful woman. Buying her back was just for enjoyment. It had no effect on martial arts cultivation. In the eyes of many, it was simply a waste of resources for martial artists to spend 10,000 mid-grade star crystals for enjoyment. They did not dare to imagine it. Of course, how generous a person's heart was depended on how much they had. 10,000 mid-grade star crystals was an astronomical figure for most martial artists. They naturally felt that it was not worth it to spend such a large price on a woman. However, to Yun Tianhao, who was the Fire Cloud sect's disciple, 10,000 mid-grade star crystals were not much. Furthermore, he was a 5-star perfected persons. He could go to dangerous places that beginner-level perfected persons did not have the ability to go. He could earn an astronomical amount of mid-grade star crystals. The scene was quiet for no less than 2 breaths of time before someone continued to bid, 10,100. It was a fair increase of 100 mid-grade star crystals. This was the lowest price increase. Yun Tianhao was clearly determined to win this auction. He immediately said, "I'll bid 11,000. Gasp! A large number of martial artists in the hall immediately gasped. Some poor 1-star perfected persons might only have 1,000 mid-grade star crystals on them. The poorest ones might not even have 1,000. However, Yun Tianhao's one bid was equivalent to the entire wealth of these perfected persons. Naturally, they were shocked. 11,100. I'll bid 12,000. After 2 breaths, another round of bidding occurred. The other party raised the price by 100 mid-grade star crystals, and Yun Tianhao raised the price to 1,000 mid-grade star crystals. You win! The perfected persons competing with Yun Tianhao gave up. Seeing Yun Tianhao raise the price, they knew that Yun Tianhao was determined to win. They could not compete with him. This time, it was the perfected persons in the VIP rooms who were shocked. Most of the martial artists in the hall did not recognize the person who gave up, but most of the perfected persons in the VIP rooms knew him. They could tell from the voice that it was the Boundless Sect's 6-star perfected persons, Yu Gu. Yu Gu was as famous as Yun Tianhao. More than 10 years ago, Yu Gu was also ranked first on the Earth Profound ranking. Now, Yu Gu was over 35 years old. His cultivation was at the 6th stage of the astral realm. He was no longer a disciple of the Boundless sect but an elder. He was the youngest inner elder of the Boundless sect. If he had the opportunity, Yu Gu had hopes of breaking through to the upper stages of the astral realm and becoming a venerable. It was easy for such a person to take out 10,000 mid-grade star crystals. Even so, Yu Gu gave up on competing with Yun Tianhao. After all, Yu Gu did not have an unlimited supply of mid-grade star crystals. Moreover, with Yun Tianhao's bidding, even if Yu Gu continued to compete, he would not have any hope. After reaching a certain point, he naturally had to give up. If even Yu Gu gave up, who could compete with Yun Tianhao? Yun Tianhao immediately laughed and said, "This girl belongs to this young master." Yun Tianhao knew that Yixing also came for Lin Tongyu, but now that the price had reached 12,000 mid-grade star crystals, Yun Tianhao had already ignored Yixing. A disciple of a remote, inferior 1-star sect who had just broken through to the astral realm yesterday, how could he have so many mid-grade star crystals? Yun Tianhao was not the only one who thought so. Some of the martial artists who knew Yixing's goal also thought so. However, They were obviously wrong. As soon as Yun Tianhao finished speaking, Yi Xing made a bid. 15,000 mid-grade star crystals. Since no one else made a bid, Yi Xing naturally had to make a move. Furthermore, Yun Tianhao's bidding showed that he was determined to get Lin Tongyu. However, Yi Xing was even more determined to get her. Even if he had to go bankrupt, Yi Xing would get senior sister Lin Tongyu back. He did not care about how many mid-grade star crystals he had to spend. Therefore, Yi Xing had to show that he was stronger than Yun Tianhao and let everyone know his determination. The price of 15,000 mid-grade star crystals had indeed startled all the martialists. Yun Tianhao was already shocking enough, but he had only raised the price by 11,000 mid-grade star crystals. However, Yi Xing had raised the price by 3,000 mid-grade star crystals. Not only did the low-level perfected persons sigh, but the mid-level perfected persons were also shocked. Although mid-level perfected persons were richer than low-level perfected persons, there was a limit to how rich they were. They could not casually take out 15,000 mid-grade star crystals. 99% of the mid-level perfected persons felt that it was not worth it to spend such a huge sum for a woman. They knew that the bidder was Yi Xing, so they did not find it strange that Yi Xing was willing to pay 15,000 mid-grade star crystals for Lin Tongyu. However, what was strange was that Yi Xing had just broken through to the Star Dipper realm. Where had he gotten so many mid-grade star crystals? Yun Tianhao also felt that it was strange, but he immediately understood. He said, "It seems like you got quite a lot of mid-grade star crystals when you destroyed the Sun Moon sect's stronghold yesterday, but they can't compare to mine. I bid 16,000. The martial artists in the auction hall only realized after hearing Yun Tianhao's words that the martial artist in VIP room 079 was actually Yi Xing, the most famous genius of the younger generation in the true Xian region. After learning about Yi Xing's identity, all the martial artists were shocked. Yi Xing was a one-star perfected person who had just broken through, yet he actually had so many mid-grade star crystals. Yi Xing was determined to win, so he continued to bid 20,000. In VIP room 7, Yun Tianhao smiled coldly and said, "This should be your limit. I'll pay 21,000. Chapter 405. Yesterday, the Sun Moon sect's stronghold had been destroyed, so Yi Xing must have obtained the storage rings of the 10 perfected masters. According to Yun Tianhao's estimations, the 10 perfected masters of the Sun Moon sect were not wealthy people. They would at most have 20,000 mid-grade star crystals. As for Yi Xing himself, it was impossible for him to have that many mid-grade star crystals. Therefore, Yun Tianhao was very confident that his bid of 21,000 mid-grade star crystals would be enough to force Yi Xing into a dead end. However, just as Yun Tianhao finished speaking, Yi Xing made another bid, greatly increasing the price. 25,000. Yun Tianhao raised the price by a few thousand again. Compared to Yi Xing, Yun Tianhao's increment of 1,000 and 1,000 seemed like child's play. Yi Xing's bid shocked all the warriors present. It was hard to imagine that Yi Xing actually had so many mid-grade star crystals on him. Even the warriors in the VIP rooms were puzzled. Their estimations were about the same as Yun Tianhao's. If Yi Xing had only obtained the mid-grade star crystals of the 10 perfected masters of the Sun Moon sect's stronghold, he probably would not be able to afford such a price. However, one thing was certain. Since Yi Xing dared to make such a bid, he definitely had that many mid-grade star crystals on him. Otherwise, if he made a false bid and was unable to take out the mid-grade star crystals after winning the bid, the outcome would be very tragic. Yun Tianhao, who was in VIP room 7, had an unhappy look on his face as he said, "Looks like you have a little more mid-grade star crystals than I expected. However, how much more can you have?" "I bid 26,000. In VIP room 079, Yi Xing's gaze was sharp. He had already learned from the discussions of some warriors that his competitor was the Fire Cloud sect's Yun Tianhao. Everyone knew that Yi Xing was a disciple of the Qingyun region's meteor sect. Lin Tongyu, who was being auctioned, was also a disciple of the meteor sect. Yesterday, Yi Xing had destroyed the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. That was enough to prove that whoever enslaved the disciples of the Falling Star sect was Yi Xing's mortal enemy. Yi Xing had to kill them without mercy. Yi Xing had already bid a high price for today's auction, but Yun Tianhao still wanted to compete with Yi Xing. Without a doubt, he didn't take Yi Xing seriously. Even if he was Yi Xing's mortal enemy, he didn't care. Yi Xing took a deep breath and suppressed the fury in his heart. His expression turned calm as he said, 30,000. The martial artists were shocked once again. Yi Xing's bid was too ridiculous. 30,000 mid-grade astral crystals. Even the wealthiest mid-grade true masters would not be able to take out that much. Even Yun Tianhao, a 5-star perfected one and the godson of the Fire Cloud sect, felt immense pressure from 30,000 mid-grade astral crystals. In VIP Room 7, Yun Tianhao immediately stood up and said, 30,000 mid-grade star crystals? You're just a country bumpkin from a remote area. Can you take it out? Yun Tianhao suspected that Yi Xing couldn't take out so many mid-grade astral crystals and was making a false bid. Yi Xing snorted and said, why do you care if I can take it out or not? I can't afford it. Cut the crap. Yun Tianhao's face immediately turned green. His eyes burned with fury as he said coldly, do you know who I am? Yi Xing had already treated Yun Tianhao as a mortal enemy that he had to kill if he had the chance. Why would he care who he was? Yi Xing said disdainfully, you're just a pauper. Yun Tianhao was instantly enraged. Yi Xing actually dared to call him a pauper? At this moment, a voice rang out from VIP Room 3, no matter how many astral crystals Yi Xing offers, if he lacks any, my Tiangang sect can make up for it. Yun Tianhao, you don't have to worry about Yi Xing not having enough astral crystals. The person who spoke was Yang Gang, the previous first on the Earth Profound ranking. He was now third on the Earth Profound ranking. Yun Tianhao's cold voice rang out from VIP Room 7, so you've sucked up to the Tiangang sect. Looks like I've underestimated a country bumpkin like you. 30,000 mid-grade astral crystals. Go play by yourself. It's not that I can't afford it, but that bitch isn't worth it. Then, Yun Tianhao transmitted his voice to the 2 4-stars enlightened persons beside him, follow Yi Xing. When they leave Nine Heavens City, kill him and bring that bitch to me. You dare to fight me after finding the Tiangang sect to back you up? You're courting death. Yun Tianhao thought to himself. In VIP Room 079, Yi Xing's eyes flashed with terrifying murderous intent. Yun Tianhao's actions were undoubtedly suicidal. Yi Xing had already sworn in his heart that if he didn't kill Yun Tianhao, he wasn't human. His cultivation technique inheritance had reached the supreme grade spiritual tier, and he could cultivate it all the way to the half-step supremacy realm. Even if Yun Tianhao was the Fire Cloud sect's godson, Yi Xing still had the confidence to do so. Even if Yi Xing wanted to kill the Fire Cloud sect's patriarch, it would still be a disaster in the future, let alone the Fire Cloud sect's godson. Yun Tianhao viewed Yi Xing as a country bumpkin and didn't put Yi Xing in his eyes. However, he didn't know that in Yi Xing's eyes, he was already a dead man. Since Yun Tianhao had withdrawn from the competition, no one dared to compete with Yi Xing. 30,000 mid-grade astral crystals became the highest bid, and Lin Tongyu was successfully bought by Yi Xing. The auction thus came to an end. Soon, Lin Tongyu was brought to VIP Room 079 by the White Bones Auction House's martial practitioners. Yi Xing paid 30,000 mid-grade astral crystals and said, please release my senior sister's seal. The White Bones sects perfected one tapped 3 acupoints on the back of Lin Tongyu's neck. Then he pulled out a silver needle about the length of a finger from the back of Lin Tongyu's head. It's done. She will return to normal in 12 breaths. After the White Bones sect's perfected one spoke, he led his people out of the room. Looking at Lin Tongyu before him, Yi Xing's heartbeat involuntarily sped up. His eyes were filled with anticipation. With every breath, Yi Xing counted silently. When Yi Xing counted to 12, Lin Tongyu's lifeless eyes suddenly lit up, becoming spirited. Senior sister. Yi Xing's emotions also became excited at this moment, and he called out. Lin Tongyu suddenly regained consciousness. Her eyes immediately filled with fear as her body trembled. When she realized that the person in front of her was Yi Xing, Lin Tongyu's expression changed from fear to surprise. Junior brother Yi Xing? After the exclamation, Lin Tongyu's expression was filled with joy. She grabbed Yi Xing's shoulders and was even more excited than Yi Xing. She said, "Junior brother Yi Xing, you're still alive?" After Lin Tongyu was captured, she was sent to the Sun Moon sect by the East supporting sect. Then, she was escorted to Nine Heavens City by the Sun Moon sect's martial practitioners. She couldn't hear any news from the outside world. The Sun Moon sect's statement to the Falling Star sect's disciples was that the Falling Star sect had been destroyed. Apart from them, everyone else had been killed and died. This included the Falling Star sect's sect master, Lu Tianyuan, and the genius disciple, Yi Xing. Her father was dead, her sect was destroyed, and everyone else was dead. Lin Tongyu's heart had long since turned to ashes. At this moment, suddenly seeing Yi Xing standing in front of her alive, how could Lin Tongyu not be excited? How could she not be surprised? Yi Xing nodded and said, "Yes, senior sister. I'm still alive. The sect master has already passed the position of sect master to me. As long as I'm alive, the Falling Star sect will still exist." Chapter 406. Junior brother Yi Xing, my father is dead. My grandfather is dead. Many elders, deacons, and disciples are dead. Lin Tongyu was very emotional. She threw herself into Yi Xing's arms and cried. Her tears fell like rain, and her voice was sad and mournful. When the Falling Star sect was destroyed, except for the elders and juniors who went to the Azure Cloud ancient land, as well as a few warriors who went out and guarded the star crystal lode, the rest of the Falling Star sect's warriors were all inside the sect. However, apart from a portion of these cultivators who had surrendered to the Dongfu sect, only Lin Tongyu and the nearly 200 disciples Yi Xing had saved the day before remained. The rest were mostly dead. Lin Tongyu witnessed the destruction of the sect with her own eyes. Countless of her fellow disciples were killed, and the grief in her heart was imaginable. However, after she was captured and sent to the Sun Moon sect as a slave, the grief in her heart became heavier and heavier, and she had nowhere to vent it. Until today, when she saw Yi Xing, Lin Tongyu finally had someone to rely on. The grief in her heart completely exploded, and she cried loudly. Yi Xing was affected by Lin Tongyu, and his eyes were a little moist. He could understand the grief in Lin Danyu's heart. Master Lin Fenghua's figure appeared in Yi Xing's mind. Although Lin Fenghua was Yi Xing's second master, and the time he spent teaching Yi Xing was not long, he was really good to Yi Xing. Yi Xing missed his master Lin Fenghua very much. Yi Xing was also very sad and angry about Lin Fenghua's death. Yi Xing gently patted Lin Tongyu's back and said, "Senior sister, it's all in the past. The Falling Star sect is still here. I will definitely make those murderers pay with their blood." Lin Tongyu had been suppressed for too long. She had no one to rely on for 3 months, and there was only pain in her life. Now that she finally had someone to rely on, her despair turned into hope. The tight string in her heart loosened, and she kept crying, wanting to release all the grief in her heart. Her father and grandfather had died one after another, and she had witnessed the tragic deaths of her fellow disciples. Lin Tongyu's little heart carried too much grief. "Senior sister, everything will be fine, everything will be fine." Looking at Lin Tongyu's crying appearance, Yi Xing's heart ached. Filled with pity, he gently patted Lin Tongyu's back to comfort her. Lin Tongyu cried for nearly 30 breaths of time before she finally stopped. Suddenly, she thought of something and her body shook. Lin Tongyu immediately left Yi Xing's embrace and said, "Junior brother Yi, there are still many disciples of my sect who were sent to the Nine Heavens City by the Sun Moon sect with me. They should still be at the Sun Moon sect's stronghold. We have to think of a way to save them." Yi Xing gently patted Lin Tongyu's shoulder and said, "Senior sister, you don't have to worry. I've already rescued my sect's disciples yesterday. They're all safe and sound." Lin Tongyu was taken aback. She said, "Among the Sun Moon sect martial practitioners who were escorting us, there were 3 spiritual masters. Among them, Lu Anping was even a 3-star spiritual master. Furthermore, how could junior brother save us? Lin Tongyu's face was full of shock. There was an inexplicable sense of joy in it, which made Yi Xing laugh. Yi Xing wiped away the tears on Lin Tongyu's face and said, "Senior sister, I'm now a Star Realm spiritual master. Furthermore, I won first place in the Young Hero Assembly. 3-star spiritual masters are no match for me. I've already killed Lu Anping, and the 2 3-star spiritual masters who were escorting the younger generation of the Sun Moon sect to the Young Hero Assembly were also killed by me. I've also destroyed the Sun Moon sect's stronghold." Lin Tongyu's eyes were filled with surprise. She said, "Really?" At this moment, Yi Xing's image in Lin Tongyu's eyes began to grow bigger. Yi Xing nodded and said, "Really?" Yi Xing became incomparably tall in Lin Tongyu's heart. Lin Tongyu was surprised and sad at the same time. Lin Tongyu said, "Junior brother Yi Xing, in just a few months, you've actually changed so much. If father was still alive, I don't know how happy he would be. Unfortunately, father." Sigh. Yi Xing sighed and said, "Senior sister, the past is the past. We can't live in the past. Instead, we have to look forward to the future. The most important thing now is to rebuild the Falling Star sect and take revenge on the enemies who destroyed the Falling Star sect one by one. At that time, Master and the fallen elders of the sect will also be happy in heaven. They can smile in the underworld." Lin Tongyu nodded. She had already regarded Yi Xing as her pillar of support. Yi Xing said, "I'll take you to see the disciples of the other sects first. After that, we'll return to the Qingyun region and rebuild the Falling Star sect." After leaving the White Bones auction house, Yi Xing saw Yang Gang. Yang Gang represented the Tiangang sect. If Yi Xing did not have enough mid-grade star crystals, Yang Gang would make up for it. However, to Yang Gang's surprise, Yi Xing could actually afford to pay the price of 30,000 mid-grade star crystals. Yang Gang congratulated Yi Xing. Yi Xing proposed to ask the Tiangang sect's 6-star sage to escort the disciples of the Falling Star sect. After the two of them said goodbye, Yang Gang returned to the Tiangang mansion to report the matter to Wu Yu. Yang Gang could not make the decision to send a 6-star sage. Yi Xing brought Lin Tongyu back to the Tiangang Inn to meet the disciples of the Falling Star sect. Seeing that the disciples of the Falling Star sect were safe and sound, a smile finally appeared on Lin Tongyu's face. The disciples of the Falling Star sect were all happy to see Lin Tongyu free. Yi Xing told the disciples of the Falling Star sect about the itinerary. He and Lin Tongyu returned to the Qingyun region first to rebuild the Falling Star sect. The rest of the disciples were led by the Tiangang sect's 6-star sage and the Tianluo sect's 3-star sage. They returned by beast carriage. Not long after, the Tiangang sect's 6-star sage arrived. Wu Yu naturally would not reject Yi Xing's request for help from the Tiangang sect. Moreover, Yi Xing had offered 10,000 mid-grade astral crystals as a reward. Even for a 6-star sage, it was not easy to earn 10,000 mid-grade astral crystals. Many 6-star sage were willing to escort the disciples of the Falling Star sect back in less than 3 months. In the end, Wu Yu chose the peak 6-star sage Wu Mingyi. He instructed Wu Mingyi not only to escort the disciples of the Falling Star sect back, but also to guard the Falling Star sect from now on so that Yi Xing could cultivate without any worries. Wu Mingyi was a member of the Wu clan and was Wu Yu's direct descendant. Naturally, he would listen to Wu Yu's orders. Wu Mingyi was in his 80s. He looked like a middle-aged man in his 40s. He wore a long black robe and exuded a vast aura. In front of the Falling Star sect's warriors, Wu Mingyi had an easygoing expression and did not put on any airs. When had the Falling Star sect ever had a 6-star sage? All the disciples were filled with reverence for Wu Mingyi. Yi Xing and Wu Mingyi had a discussion. They first gave him 10,000 mid-grade astral crystals before bidding farewell with Lin Tongyu. Yi Xing entrusted Wu Mingyi, "Sage Mingyi, I'll leave the safety of my sect's disciples in your hands." Wu Mingyi patted his chest and guaranteed, "You don't have to worry about them. I will escort them back safely." Yi Xing was anxious to return home. After leaving the Tiangang Inn, he and Lin Tongyu rode on the silver-winged demonic condor and flew into the sky, returning to the azure cloud region. The silver-winged demonic condor was extremely fast, and it did not take long for them to leave Nine Heaven City. Not long after Yixing left the city, the two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders who had followed Fire Cloud sects Yun Tianhao left Nine Heaven City and chased after Yixing. The two 4-star sage elders had a pair of metallic wings on their backs. They were mid-grade air transportation spirit artifacts. With a flap of their wings, they streaked across the sky at an extremely fast speed. They were even faster than the silver-winged demonic condor. On a tall building, we saw the two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders leave Nine Heaven City from afar. He snorted and said, "Yun Tianhao, you really don't know what's good for you. Who doesn't know that Yixing is someone that I, Wu Yu, think highly of? How dare you touch him?" With that said, a pair of azure wings sprouted from his back. It was a superior-grade air transportation spirit artifact. Instantly, he transformed into an azure beam of light and disappeared into the sky. The two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders pursued Yixing, but they did not know that they had been targeted by an 8-star sage elder. In order to take into account Wu Yu's reputation, Yun Tianhao got the two 4-star sage elders to take action only after they were far away from Nine Heaven City. They had to do it without anyone knowing. As for Wu Yu, he had to take into account the Fire Cloud sect's reputation. The Fire Cloud sect was one of the 9 high sections. The Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders were not people he could casually touch. He had to wait until he was far away from Nine Heaven City. However, we did not know that be it the two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders pursuing Yixing, or him pursuing the two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders, they were all seen by someone else. He Biao was topless. His muscles were like dragons, and his face was covered in a beard. His long hair draped over his shoulders, making him look like a barbarian. However, He Biao's eyes were extremely lively. They were black and bright, and they were filled with vigor. He could clearly see Yixing, who was 50 kilometers away, the two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders who were dozens of kilometers away, and Wu Yu, who was dozens of kilometers away. He Biao suddenly took a step forward, and his figure disappeared in a flash. When the two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders were 50 kilometers away from Nine Heaven City, they were about to speed up and catch up to Yixing. However, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them, blocking their path. This person was 2 meters tall. His upper body was bare, and his muscles were like dragons. It was He Biao. He Biao did not have wings condensed from astral energy, nor did he have a flying spirit tool. However, he was standing in the void. The two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders were shaken. Only astral-reaching realm sovereigns could walk in the void without the aid of flying spirit tools or astral energy. Sovereigns were a legend in the true mystic region. There was not a single sovereign in the true mystic region. Moreover, very few sovereigns came to the true mystic region. When a sovereign suddenly appeared and blocked their path, the two Fire Cloud sect's 4-star sage elders were naturally shocked. Just as the two were about to ask the sovereign before them, He Biao's eyes suddenly turned pitch black. Moreover, they started to spin, forming 2 dark vortexes. The two 4-star sage elders' gazes were deeply attracted by the 2 dark vortexes. In the blink of an eye, their eyes lost their color and became lifeless. Immediately after, the 2 4-star sage elders attacked at the same time. Astral light broke through the sky and chopped at each other's necks. In the blink of an eye, 2 heads flew off from their bodies. Blood splattered everywhere. The 2 4-star sage elders had lost their lives at the same time. Chapter 407. He Biao didn't even move his hand. Just by relying on his eye technique, he easily sent the 2 4-star spiritual masters to hell. Master Wu Yu was far behind the 2 4-star spiritual masters. Although the distance was too far and he couldn't see clearly, his eyesight was astonishing. He could still see the 2 figures. At this moment, a third figure suddenly appeared. Then, in the blink of an eye, the two spiritual masters chopped off each other's heads. Their corpses fell from the sky. This sudden change gave esteemed Wu Yu a fright. Even though he was an esteemed person, he still felt a chill in his heart. Master Wu Yu's cultivation was at Star Dipper Realm 8th stage. If he wanted to kill a 4-star spiritual master, he could do it in an instant, or even silently. However, it was impossible for him to instantly kill 2 4-star spiritual masters without making a move. Moreover, Master Wu Yu was very clear that no expert in the true Xin region could do it. From this, it could be seen how frightening the strength of the figure that suddenly appeared in front of the 2 4-star spiritual masters was. It was definitely not at the level of a master. Even from afar, Master Wu Yu could see that the figure didn't use a flying spiritual tool, but was walking on the void. Venerable. A thought flashed through Master Wu Yu's mind. He couldn't help but be astonished. Without condensing the Star Dipper wings or using a flying spiritual tool, only astral-reaching realm venerables could do it. In the true Xin region, venerables were legends. For example, 100 marquis martial saints couldn't defeat a 1-star spiritual master. 100 master spiritual masters couldn't defeat the weakest venerable. There was a world of difference between spiritual masters and venerables. A venerable had unexpectedly appeared in front of him. How could Master Wu Yu not be astonished? He didn't dare to continue forward. He hurriedly turned around and returned to Nine Heavens City. In front of a venerable, the 9 great sects of the true Xian region weren't worth mentioning. If a venerable was angry, any 1-star sect would be like a chicken or a pottery dog, easily annihilated. Although Master Wu Yu was famous in the true Xian region and ranked 7th on the Heavenly Profound ranking, he was still trembling with fear in front of a venerable. Of course, he didn't dare to be rash. As soon as he saw He Biao, he turned around and returned to the city. Since Master Wu Yu saw He Biao's figure, He Biao naturally saw Master Wu Yu clearly, as if he was right in front of him. He Biao only glanced at Wu Yu, and his figure disappeared in a flash. In an instant, a voice was transmitted into Wu Yu's mind. Protect him. To protect him. 4 simple words, but each word was like a sudden clap of thunder in Master Wu Yu's ears, intimidating his mind. When Wu Yu heard this, he was shocked. He immediately turned around to look, but the figure in the distance had already disappeared without a trace. Protect him? Who was he? Could it be? Exalted Master Wu Yu was astonished. His heart was greatly shaken, and his eyes revealed a look of astonishment. To protect Yi Xing? When Wu Yu thought of Yi Xing, he could not help but exclaim, "There's actually a venerable behind Yi Xing." This was too shocking for Wu Yu. How could Wu Yu dare to disobey the orders of the Venerable One? After the shock, he cupped his fists and bowed in the direction where He Biao disappeared. Wu Yu said respectfully, "I will follow the Venerable One's orders." How could Wu Yu dare to disobey the orders of the Venerable One? Not to mention that Wu Yu was only ranked 7th on the Heavenly Profound ranking. Even if he was ranked 1st, in front of the Venerable One, he was still an ant. All the venerables of the true Xian region added together did not exceed 50, and they were not a match for the Venerable One. Moreover, Wu Yu obeyed the order to protect Yi Xing. This was also a good thing. If this matter succeeded, there would be at least 2 benefits. First, there would be a reward for completing the Venerable One's orders. What kind of person was the Venerable One? How rich was he? Even if he casually gave out a spirit-level treasure, it would still be a spirit-level treasure. Second, as Yi Xing matured, he, as the Venerable One, would also benefit. No wonder he was not interested in joining the Sky Dipper sect. It turns out that he has the guidance of the Venerable One and can learn the profound-level martial inheritance. Yi Xing broke through the star realm and became a Taoist at the age of 18. He still has 17 years of golden cultivation time. With such talent and the guidance of the Venerable One, he will definitely become an astral-reaching venerable in the future. It is a great honor for me to be the Venerable One's Tao protector in this lifetime. It is a good thing, a very good thing. Wu Yu murmured to himself. His expression became more and more joyful. Wu Yu raised his hand. The astral energy condensed in his palm and turned into a small bird. Junior brother sect leader, from today onwards, I will be the Tao protector of Yixing. Please let junior brother Onan guard the 9 sect alliance for me. Master Wu Yu muttered to himself beside Xing Gang's little bird. As he spoke, he waved his hand and shouted, "Go!" Shu the astral bird immediately turned into a beam of light and flew into the distance. Soon, it disappeared from sight. The internal strength of an ordinary martial artist was the ordinary qi. The internal strength of a martial saint was the star origin. It was a type of Zhen qi that was 100 times stronger than ordinary qi. The internal strength of a Taoist was the astral energy. The astral energy was 100 times stronger than Zhen qi. When the astral energy was condensed, it would be as solid as a spirit weapon. Especially for a high-level astral realm venerable, the astral energy would be inconceivably solid. It would be even stronger than a mid-grade spirit weapon. Even if this small bird condensed from astral energy left Wu Yu's side, it would still take more than half a day for it to dissipate. The astral energy pierced through the sky at an extremely fast speed. In more than half a day, the astral bird had already flown to the Heavenly Dipper sect and passed the message to the sect leader. Some martial saints of the noble realm could use astral energy to speak and condense it into a line. They could transmit their voices from 1,000 miles away. As for Taoists, they could transmit their voices from 10,000 miles away. As for high-level astral realm venerables, they could transmit their voices even from 100,000 miles away. If they were astral-reaching realm venerables, they would naturally be even more powerful. After sending the message, Wu Yu revealed a smile and continued to chase after Yixing. From now on, he would be Yixing's Tao protector. He would secretly follow and ensure Yixing's safety. This time, as a Tao protector, he would be able to get close to a venerable and help a future venerable. There were many benefits. Wu Yu was naturally very happy. His face was full of smiles. However, Wu Yu had overlooked one point. He had always thought that He Biao was a venerable. However, experts who could stand in the void with their own strength were not limited to venerables. Since venerables could stand in the void, kings who were stronger than venerables could also do so. Kings were existences who stood at the peak of martial Tao in the entire star continent. In the true Shen domain, venerables were already legends. Wu Yu had lived for more than 100 years, but he had never met a venerable from outside the true Shen domain. As for kings, Wu Yu had also left the true Shen domain when he was young. However, he had never met a king in his life. He had only met venerables a few times. When Wu Yu saw the expert standing in the void, he naturally only thought that he was a venerable. He did not even think that he could be a king. A king was an existence that was completely out of reach for a perfected person. The silver-winged demonic eagle flew high in the sky. Yixing and Lin Tongyu sat on the eagle's back. The wind was blowing beside their ears. Lin Tongyu's gaze was filled with admiration as she looked at Yixing from time to time. When they were in the Yixing's performance was already very outstanding. Lin Tongyu had a whole new level of respect for him. Now that the Falling Star sect was facing a great disaster, Yixing was shouldering a heavy responsibility. First, he asked the disciples of the Falling Star sect to survive. Now, he had to return to the Qingyun area to rebuild the Falling Star sect and take revenge on his enemies. Yixing's actions not only made Lin Tongyu look at him in a different light, but also deeply admired him. In her heart, Yixing had become incomparably tall, occupying all the space in her heart. Lin Tongyu looked at Yixing. She found that this junior brother was so handsome and so valiant even when he was sitting down. He was like a jade tree in the wind, or a majestic mountain. However, the current Yixing was not as handsome as Lin Tongyu had imagined. He frowned slightly. Due to the superbrain, Yixing's eyesight was far better than ordinary people. He could see into the distance. Moreover, because he had cultivated the eye of clear cloud, the distance he could see into the distance was even more astonishing. He could clearly see everything within a radius of dozens of miles. Yixing had left the city and the two 4-star perfected persons were following him. This could not be hidden from Yi Xing. Yi Xing did not take the two 4-star perfected persons seriously. If they were plotting something and left the 9-heaven city, Yi Xing would use his trump card to kill them. Yi Xing only occasionally paid attention to the two 4-star perfected persons who were dozens of miles behind him. The appearance of He Biao had only been for a short period of time, so Yi Xing did not know about it. He only knew that after a period of time, the two 4-star perfected persons who were following him disappeared and were replaced by esteemed Wu Yu. This made Yi Xing a little puzzled. What was the meaning of esteemed Wu Yu following him? Towards Wu Yu, Yi Xing was very grateful and also very respectful in his heart. However, it was impossible for Yi Xing not to have any thoughts about esteemed Wu Yu secretly following him. The other party was an esteemed master at the 8th stage of the astral realm. He was very famous in the True Shen domain and ranked 7th on the Heavenly Profound ranking. He was one of the 7 most powerful people in the True Shen domain. Who would feel at ease being followed by such a person? Previously, there were 2 4-star perfected persons who were following me. Were those 2 4-star perfected persons subordinates of esteemed Wu Yu, or did esteemed Wu Yu chase them away? Yi Xing was puzzled. If the 2 4-star perfected persons were esteemed Wu Yu's subordinates, then esteemed Wu Yu would not have any good intentions when he first sent people to follow him and then personally followed him. If esteemed Wu Yu helped him chase away the 2 4-star perfected persons, then it meant that esteemed Wu Yu was secretly helping him. Of course, there was another possibility for the second if, which was that esteemed Wu Yu had chased them away. However, esteemed Wu Yu was also plotting against him. Otherwise, why would he continue to follow him? Regardless of whether esteemed Wu Yu's intentions were good or bad, Yi Xing did not like it. Yi Xing had his own secrets. At certain times, he would use his trump card to kill powerful enemies who were far stronger than him. When he used his trump card, he did not want someone watching him from afar. Senior sister, you ride the silver-winged demonic eagle first. I will catch up later. Yi Xing instructed Lin Tongyu. Then, a pair of black-feathered wings appeared on his back and he flew up from the eagle's back. If esteemed Wu Yu had any bad intentions, Yi Xing could only use the azure cloud wings to escape. Of course, he had to let Lin Tongyu go first. Otherwise, in front of an esteemed master, Yi Xing would have a hard time escaping by himself, let alone escaping with Lin Tongyu. I owe 1 chapter for both yesterday and today. The total number of chapters 10 is now 28. The plot at the back is finally straightened out. I am looking forward to it. I will speed up the updates from tomorrow onwards. Chapter 408. Behind Yi Xing, tens of kilometers away, Wu Yu stopped moving forward. That's impossible. I'm so far away from him. How can he discover me? Wu Yu saw that Yi Xing had stopped, but the silver-winged demonic eagle carried Lin Tongyu and continued to fly. He could not help but be surprised, and then he flashed into a white cloud at the side, hiding his figure. Wu Yu did not believe that Yi Xing could discover him. He did not understand why Yi Xing stopped. However, after a few breaths, his expression became one of shock. Yi Xing's voice was condensed into a line and transmitted into his ears. If you have something to say, why don't you come forward and meet me openly? Despite being so far away, Yi Xing was still able to discover him. Furthermore, he was certain that Yi Xing was following him. This truly shocked exalted Wu Yu. Since he was discovered, Wu Yu naturally could not hide anymore. He flew out of the cloud and soon arrived in front of Yi Xing. From afar, Wu Yu said, "Little friend Yi Xing, don't misunderstand. I don't have any ill intentions." Yi Xing raised his hand from afar, indicating for Wu Yu to stop. He said, "Since you don't have any ill intentions, then please tell me about your good intentions." Wu Yu was protecting Yi Xing under the orders of the Venerable One, but Yi Xing's reaction clearly showed that he did not know about this matter. Obviously, the Venerable One wanted Wu Yu to protect him secretly. Without the Venerable One's consent, Wu Yu naturally did not dare to say that he was protecting Yi Xing. Wu Yu smiled embarrassedly and said, "If I said that I was worried about your safety, so I secretly followed you and secretly protected you, would you believe me?" Yi Xing nodded and said, "I believe you." Thank you for your good intentions, but I don't need anyone to secretly protect me. If there's any danger, I have my own ways to escape. Please return. Yi Xing said straightforwardly because it was not important whether he believed it or not. What was important was that regardless of whether Wu Yu had good intentions or bad intentions, it was fine as long as he did not secretly follow him. Wu Yu's expression stiffened. That unknown venerable one ordered him to protect Yi Xing. How would he dare to disobey? Since he was going to be Yi Xing's Dao protector, he naturally had to be by Yi Xing's side at all times. Otherwise, if Yi Xing was in danger and he, the Dao protector, was not by his side, how could he still be called a Dao protector? Wu Yu was in a dilemma and said, "Little friend Yi Xing, you have offended many experts in the true Xian domain. And this time you are also going back to the Qingyun region, you are also facing great dangers. This old man indeed only wants to ensure your safety and form a good relationship with you. I have no other intentions. With this old man secretly protecting you, there is absolutely no one in the true Xian region who can threaten your life. And if there's anything you want to do, you can ask me to do it. I will help you complete it." Yi Xing smiled and said, "If that's the case, then I won't be able to live a day in peace. If Venerable One wants to form a good relationship with me, protecting my falling star sect from being destroyed by other major forces is the best way to form a good relationship. As for what I want to do, I will do it myself. If everything needs to be done by humans and I just live my life peacefully, then what future does my martial way have? If Venerable One insists on secretly following me, then I can only escape from the true Xian domain and do everything I can to get rid of Venerable One's tracking." Since Yi Xing had said so, Wu Yu naturally did not dare to secretly follow him. Otherwise, his original intention was to protect Yi Xing, but he ended up forcing Yi Xing to escape from the true Xian domain. This was obviously not the result he wanted to see. However, Wu Yu did not dare to disobey that Venerable One's orders. He was in a dilemma. As such, Wu Yu could only be honest and said, "Little friend Yi Xing, the reason why I'm secretly following you is because a Venerable One ordered me to protect you and ensure your safety. Now that you don't let me follow you, and I don't dare to disobey that Venerable One's orders, what should I do?" A Venerable One ordered Venerable One to protect me? Yi Xing was puzzled and asked in surprise. Yi Xing had never seen a Venerable One in his life. How could a Venerable One order Venerable Wu Yu to protect him? Wait a minute. Yi Xing's mind suddenly flashed and he thought of a person. He Biao. The He Biao that he met in the depths of the Qingyun mountain range. That terrifying man with explosive muscles, shoulder-length hair, and a bare upper body, who looked like a barbarian. The strongest martial artist Yi Xing had seen in his life was undoubtedly He Biao. This person appeared behind Yi Xing silently. It was only when Yi Xing spoke that Yi Xing discovered him. Yi Xing's sixth sense was very sharp. He had already seen Venerable One, but he was very sure that even if it was Venerable One, it was impossible for him to stand behind him without him sensing anything. Moreover, He Biao had said that he came from the distant Dark Star sect. At that time, Yi Xing did not know what level the Dark Star sect was. He thought that it was a superior one-star sect established by the experts of the Qingyun sect. However, after Yi Xing arrived at Nine Heaven City, he had bought many books that introduced the Star Continent to read. Although the books that introduced the Star Continent mainly talked about the Great Yuan Dynasty and the 12 affiliated empires around the Great Yuan Dynasty, there were also a few words that mentioned an enemy force that could contend against the Great Yuan Dynasty, the Dark Star sect. When Yi Xing saw the Dark Star sect, he was surprised because the name was the same as the sect that He Biao had mentioned. However, the Dark Star sect was a super force that could contend with the Great Yuan Dynasty. It was stronger than any two-star empire. It was a three-star sect, a king sect. Yi Xing did not dare to believe that he would meet an expert from a king sect in the Qingyun mountain range. Therefore, in Yi Xing's opinion, perhaps the Dark Star sect that He Biao mentioned was the same as the Dark Star sect that he had read about in the books. But now, Yi Xing was starting to believe it. Perhaps they were from the same sect. Therefore, He Biao was the venerable that Wu Yu had mentioned. This was the only explanation. However, There was another question that puzzled Yixing. Although he had a good relationship with He Biao, the two of them had only met once and did not have a deep relationship. Why would He Biao ask Wu Yu to be his Dao protector and protect his safety? Yixing did not believe that this was a kind of evil intention. If He Biao had evil intentions, why would he need Wu Yu to secretly follow him? He could directly take action and capture Yixing alive. Even if Yixing had a supreme-grade flying spiritual weapon, he would not be able to escape. Just as Yixing was puzzled, He Biao's voice suddenly came from afar. Yixing and Wu Yu both heard his voice. Since younger brother Yixing doesn't like people secretly following him, you don't have to follow him. Younger brother Yixing, you are very good. I am optimistic about your future. 1 year later, if you can enter the top 100 in the East Divine Continent Junior Genius Competition, I will give you a great fortune. I will wait for you. He Biao said 3 sentences in total. The first sentence was for Wu Yu, and the second and third sentences were for Yixing. Wu Yu was stunned on the spot when he heard He Biao's words. A venerable actually called Yixing younger brother? Wu Yu's heart was thumping, and he was dumbfounded. Venerables were lofty existences. Even if he was a venerable who was revered by countless warriors in the true Xian domain, in front of a venerable, he still had to be cautious and pay respects to a junior. How could he dare to call a venerable brother? Yixing's expression was also one of surprise, but not of shock. From the voice, he confirmed that the venerable mentioned by Wu Yu was indeed He Biao. He was surprised because his thoughts were confirmed. Moreover, he felt warmth in his heart for He Biao to have a venerable protect him just because he thought highly of him. Although Yixing didn't have much contact with He Biao and had only met him once, He Biao had left a deep impression on him. Enter the top 100 in the East Divine Continent Junior Genius Competition? Brother He Biao, just you wait, I will definitely do it. Yixing didn't know where He Biao was, so he operated his star gang and roared. The sound waves were like waves, and his voice was mighty and mighty, spreading for dozens of miles. He Biao didn't reply and seemed to have left. Wu Yu, who was dumbfounded, was awakened by Yixing's sound waves. When he heard Yixing call that venerable brother He Biao, he couldn't help but be speechless. The venerable called you younger brother because he thought highly of you. You really dare to call him older brother? Wu Yu knew that he wouldn't dare. Moreover, Wu Yu also felt that Yixing's promise of entering the top 100 in the East Divine Continent Junior Genius Competition was unreliable. The true Xian domain was only one of the 72 lower domains of the 108 domains in the East Divine Continent. The 36 upper domains were all 2-star forces, and their disciples were much stronger than the geniuses of the 72 lower domains. Wu Yu didn't know much about the 36 upper domains. He only knew about the Blue Dragon Empire and the Green Feather Empire, which were near the true Xian domain. These two empires were both low-rank empires, and the Blue Dragon sect and the Green Feather sect behind them were 2-star forces. However, according to Wu Yu's knowledge, the most outstanding disciples under the age of 25 in the Blue Dragon sect and the Green Feather sect were already at the 5th stage of the astral realm. This was only a low-rank empire. If it was a middle-rank or high-rank empire, the junior geniuses would have a better cultivation environment, better resources, and better inheritances, and their cultivation would definitely be higher. There would definitely be many 6th-stage astral realm cultivators. The East Divine Continent Junior Genius Competition would be held a year later. At that time, there would definitely be many 6th-stage astral realm cultivators. Moreover, there would be some geniuses who could challenge those of a higher level. Even if they were only at the 4th or 5th stage of the astral realm, their strength would be comparable to a 6th-star enlightened being. In order to enter the top 100, one would need to have the battle strength of a 6th-star enlightened being. Yixing had just broken through to the astral realm. Even if his battle strength was heaven-defying, he was still only a 3rd-star enlightened being. In order to enter the top 100, even if Yixing could still maintain his heaven-defying battle strength after becoming a middle-rank enlightened being, he would still need to raise his cultivation by 3 levels within a year. From the 1st stage of the astral realm to the 4th stage of the astral realm. When one's cultivation reached the astral realm, the time required to cultivate was much longer than the astral vortex realm. Being able to raise one level within a year was already considered an incredible genius. In Wu Yu's opinion, it was almost impossible for Yi Xing to become a fourth-star enlightened being within a year. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.